was the director of communications in United Nations ESCAP in Bangkok. And because he was in charge of the Asian Highway and Railway project, he was constantly pushing this issue and elevating this issue of connectivity into a major agenda item for Bangladesh. And so for this, we have to really recognize Rahmatullah's great contribution in this particular area. It should be kept in mind that the Rahmatullah initiative of the Asian Highway and Railways, which was to pass from Kunming through to Myanmar, into Bangladesh and across into Bengal, was in fact explored, research was done. I myself wrote a book on this subject, Rediscovering the Southern Silk Route, which discussed the issue of connectivity from Kunming to Kolkata. And this was a major concern of ours to promote this. Rahmatullah, when he retired from ESCAP, then came, and this was the main area of work which he did, both through the director of the South Asia Center for Policy Studies, where it was located in the CPD, and later on, of course, as an independent expert. So one of the last works he actually did is basically constituting the subject matter of the presentation by Professor Mustafizur Rehman, where he explored the main connectivity gaps within this sub-region and in fact addressed all the actions which are really needed to take this forward. So what I would request of all of you is that before Mustafiz makes his presentation, if we may just stand and observe a minute's silence in memory of Dr. Rahmatullah, because if anyone is owed a real debt from the people of the whole region in promoting this agenda, it is Dr. Rahmatullah. And one of the greatest occasions for sadness, because I was the one who brought Rahmatullah into the Bangladesh Planning Commission as the section chief in charge of transport, and I have known him from the foundation of Bangladesh. So his absence amongst us is deeply felt, and we hope that a new generation of people can really come abroad who can in fact really carry on the work, because now that the pioneering work has been done by Rahmatullah, now the real business part of the process actually starts. And on this part, I will make a few remarks later on. So if we would just stand for a minute, this will be in memory of Dr. Rahmatullah. Now, let me invite Professor Mustafizur Rehman, the director of Center for Policy. And before he comes in, of course, let me point out that when this whole discussion was started, it was still an academic issue. Now we have reached a point where issues of connectivity have become a reality. And so the presentation which Mustafiz is going to be making before you is actually going to help us to really see how this process can now actually move forward from the conference rooms and the offices of the intergovernmental groups into reality on the ground. So Mustafiz, please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, dear guests. I would like to join Professor Rehman Sobhan in recalling the seminal contribution of Dr. Rahmatullah In fact, as you will recall, he was known as Mr. Connectivity in South Asia. And he seminal works which were carried out as in CPD and as part of the SARC regional multimodal transport study, that really set the tone for deepening connectivity and transport communication within South Asia. So his absence is deeply felt. French philosopher Voltaire said that nothing is as strong as an idea whose time has come. And I think the time for transport connectivity has arrived in South Asia. And we are very happy that with the signing of the Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Myanmar, India and Nepal motor vehicle agreement, this the issue of connectivity has now assumed from academic discussion to one of practicalities. And that is why we thought that we will organize this discussion on behalf of the CPD so that we can really discuss the nitty-gritties of now implementing not only BBIN MVA, motor vehicle agreement, but also the other motor vehicle agreements which are being discussed as of now. And we are very happy that we have with us as our special guests the Honorable High Commissioner from India, His Excellency Mr. Pankaj Saran, the Ambassador of Nepal in Bangladesh, His Excellency Mr. Kumar Shrestha. We have as our guest of honor Mr. Matlub Ahmad, the newly elected President of the FBCCI. Matlub bhai, once again on behalf of CPD, we'd like to congratulate you on your election. We have amongst us as our discussant Dr. Mohammad Khairuজ্জামান Muzumdar, who is sitting on the left, and he is Deputy Chief of Party, USAID Bangladesh Trade Facilitation Activity, and has done a lot of work in this area. And I'm also very happy to recognize the presence of Mrs. Tori Oliver from the US Embassy, who has also collaborated with CPD and our counterpart organization in India, CATS, and we have carried out the study in collaboration with them. We are very happy also to have with us all the special guests who are here today. We are very happy that the other partner in the BBIN MVA, the Bhutanese friends of ours are also present here. The ambassador is not in the town, but we have our friends over there. So thank you very much, all of you, excellencies, distinguished guests, for your presence. And on behalf of my team, which includes Muhammad Jafar Sadiq, my colleague at CPD, and Nirman Shaha, who is now lecturer at the Department of Economics, Dhaka University, and was with us also. So thank you very much. As I said, we have just had the BBIN MVA signed, and today we will discuss how to take this good initiative, excellent initiative forward. So I will start by mentioning about the importance of transport connectivity in South Asia and in our region, and then how we can draw synergies and leverage the other initiatives which are being undertaken as of now, because we will have to see motor vehicle agreement as part of the greater scheme of things. Many things are happening in South Asia, and the motor vehicle agreement will have to gel into all those activities. Otherwise, we will not be able to draw the synergies and leverage the other initiatives which are there. And then I will talk some with regard to particularly the BBIN MVA, and then I will try to make an assessment of this from the Bangladesh perspective, and some of the implementation and challenges and the way forward. So let me begin by saying that we look at South Asian integration from 4 types of connectivities: the trade connectivity, transport connectivity, investment connectivity, and people-to-people connectivity. And if we look at all these 4 types of connectivities, transport connectivity is the key to all others. If you want to have trade, if you want to have trade facilitation, transport will be important. If you want to really attract investment and build up the value chains and the supply chains, connectivity, transport connectivity will be key. And if we want to have more people-to-people connectivity, then also transport connectivity will have to play a key role. But as Professor Rehman Sobhan in his book Rediscovering the Southern Silk Route has mentioned, and this is also an opportunity to recognize the contribution that Sir has made through his writings and through his advocacy and through the 16 rounds of Bangladesh-India dialogues carried over 10 years. So this is an opportunity to recognize the contribution that Sir has made also. So in one of his writings he said that we are distant neighbors, and it's true that South Asia remains one of the most disconnected regions in the world. So let us begin from that, and from that perspective these four connectivities are the ones that are key to strengthening the economic cooperation and integration in South Asia. We all understand that higher transport cost leads to high costs of doing business. Our land customs stations, through which 90% of our trade takes place within, for example, between India and Bangladesh, these are just checking points, not crossing points as of now. We know that. If we want to translate our comparative advantages into competitive advantages, then we have to reduce our transport cost of doing business. So transport connectivity becomes important, and it is just not export interest of ours, but it is also the import facilitation, because if we can have imports at lower costs, obviously that will reduce our producers' cost, that will help also our export-oriented industries. So we'll have to look at it just not as import facilitation, but export facilitation, but also import facilitation in order to have our export-oriented industries costs reduced. And also if we look at the duty-free, quota-free offer of India to all the LDCs, we are not being really able to translate those into higher exports, for example, from Bangladesh, because many of the transport difficulties really raise the costs, and as you will know, duties are now coming down. So if you look at the cost of doing business, then tariffs are only a small part. Sometimes the transport costs are higher than what the tariffs would mean. So it is a key. Duty free is good, but then we will have to do the other things. And at CPD we did a recent study where we showed that Bangladesh is exporting many items globally, but not to India. And India is importing those same products at 6-digit, 8-digit level, but not from Bangladesh. So there is supply side capacities, but we are not being able to really translate this. And our estimate is worth about $2 billion. So that is also because it's just not the tariff issues, but also this issue of connectivity and how to take the goods seamlessly through multimodal connectivity and at a lower cost. Sometimes in Bangladesh we say that the Northeast is our captive market and we may lose it. And we always say that what is the trade between Bangladesh and the Northeast? It's still peanut. It's less than $150 million. It's less than 0.1% of Bangladesh's total export. So the issue is that if the Northeast can develop and they have the purchasing power, then actually they become the captive market of Bangladesh. Right of now, the lower purchasing power, no capacity to import, so nothing to export also. So it's very small items and very small amount of it. So more integration within the region will help. And also we have a very strong interest in having connectivity with Nepal and Bhutan, who are also interested to export through Mongla and through Chittagong to third countries, and also we can our export and import from Nepal and Bhutan will, if we have seamless connectivity, the costs can be reduced. So all these are very important, and from that perspective the 3 motor vehicle agreements which are now being discussed and one has been signed. One is the Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal motor vehicle agreement, which was signed on June 15th. by our Minister for Transport and Communication. He will be here in some few minutes. And then we also have the SARC Motor Vehicle Agreement, which was supposed to be signed during the 18th SARC Summit in Kathmandu, but it has been deferred for some reasons, but we are hoping that that will also be signed soon. And also the Bangladesh-India Motor Vehicle Agreement, which was first mooted when Indian Prime Minister Mr. Manmohan Singh came to Bangladesh in 2011, and there was a proposal, and that is still there. And if you would recall, a few weeks ago, when the Indian Prime Minister Mr. Modi came, the issue of this was mentioned in the Article 36 of the communique, where it was said that to commence negotiations on a multimodal transport agreement between the two countries and to constitute a joint task force for this purpose. So the Indian proposal of India-Bangladesh MVA is also there. So there is a need to also coordinate and integrate all this, because one of our apprehensions is that so many things are happening. There has to be some coordination, and we hope that the policymakers will take that into cognizance. We also wanted to mention that there are other developments which are taking place, which the MVA will have to be looked from that perspective as well. Now, if we look at the Indo-Bangladesh Amended Trade Agreement, Article 8 mentions that the two governments agree to make mutually beneficial arrangements for the use of all the three modes of communication between the two countries for passage of goods between two places in one country and the third and to third countries through the territory of the other under terms mutually agreed upon. So this also is something which is very important. In effect, there was the issue of transit was there in the earlier trade agreement also, but the protocol was only for the water transport. So transit was taking place through the waterways, but now road and railway has also been included. So this is also something. So what I am trying to say is that although it is BBIN, but there are other things which are there, and then this BBIN doesn't talk about transit, for example. But if you look at BBIN MVA and also the India-Bangladesh Amended Trade Agreement, then if you read it together, then transit is there. So let us be clear on some of these issues. What is also very important is that some of the major infrastructure activities which are going on here in Bangladesh, the building of the Padma Bridge, then the issues of Asian Highway link roads, Asian Highway 1, 2 and 41, which will pass through Bangladesh, the BCM Economic Corridor, which is also very much on the agenda. All these are also new developments which will have to be taken into consideration when we are talking about the BBIN MVA. And also the coastal shipping agreement and some of the other agreements which are there are also very important in terms of implementing the BBIN MVA. And what we have also tried to say is that the viability of some of our ports in Bangladesh, for example, Chittagong Port, Mongla Port, or the newly proposed the Pirate Seaport, all this will become economically viable if we have the cargo from the hinterland. So this is also very important. And also this can be an opportunity for export of transport services from Bangladesh. So if we look at from the perspective of development of Bangladesh in the 21st century, what we are saying is that all these new developments which are taking place have to be coordinated with the MVAs so that Bangladesh can benefit the most. Our development of our ports, development of our transport connectivity within Bangladesh, development of our LCS, the land customs stations, trade facilitation, our bridges like Padma, all these will be economically viable if we can integrate through transport connectivity within sub-region of BBIN and also the greater region of SARC. So this is very important to keep in mind. Now, as we know, these are the milestones. The BBIN MVA was signed, as we have said, on 15th of June, and there was prior discussion. In fact, the BBIN takes a lot from the SARC MVA. Which we hope that will also come into being very soon. So the 17 articles in the BBIN MVA, many of those are aligned with the SARC MVA, which is also very, very important. And one of the major characteristics of the BBIN MVA is also that it is an open MVA, meaning that other countries also can join if there is a consensus among the 4 contracting parties. So I think this is also very important. So on June 15th it was signed. By September 15, all the protocols and standard operating procedures will have to be finalized, and by December 2015 all these preparatory works should be completed, and the countries will have to ratify the MVA, and then it will be implemented. So a lot of work, and our friends from the roads and highways are also here, including my good friend, the chief engineer. So we are hoping that they will be able to finish this on time. Very challenging task. Now, with regard to the BBIN, obviously the purpose is to strengthen connectivity between our 4 countries, and it is one of the characteristics of this motor vehicle agreement is that it is both the cargo, the passengers, and also the individuals who would like to cross the border and take advantage of the BBIN. So this is very important that it covers a whole 3 dimensions of transport connectivity. And second, the 17 articles which are there cover a lot of ground. Permits which are to be there, the border crossing protocols, the issue of fees and charges, then what will be the restrictions, how the security will be managed. So all the 17 articles look at various aspects of movement of cargo, passenger and non-regular passenger and personal vehicular movement. So a wide range of issues are there. But the protocols will need to be obviously detailed out. The agreement as it stands mentions about that these protocols will need to be developed. It mentions that the routes will have to be identified, the resting places, then the tolls, the checkposts, what will be the formalities, but these are not fleshed out as yet. So it is very important that these are fleshed out, and I will come to the best practices with regard to that. There is a provision for reviewing every 3 years, and any country can opt out. And as I said also that new countries can also be included. So it's an inclusive agreement. Now, if you look at the joint statement of the ministers, they said that there will be 30 priority transport connectivity projects which will have to be implemented because there are a lot of gaps within in the possible routes. Although the routes have not been identified, those will need to be identified subsequently. But the ministers have mentioned that 30 projects will have to be undertaken in order to have the seamless connectivity that we are talking about, and it will cost about $8 billion. So it's quite a substantial amount of money that they have mentioned, and they have also mentioned that potentially it could increase the intra-regional trade by 60% and the global trade of these 4 countries by 30%. So that's the ambition, but we will have to do the homework. As I have said, $8 billion is quite a significant amount of money which they have mentioned. The access roads will also have to be developed. The ports will need to be developed because the agreement will facilitate that the taking of the cargo to the ports, but the ports will also have to have the capacities to handle those. So these are major challenges. So what we thought what are the possible routes which may be there? It's not mentioned, but one is from as far as India Bangladesh routes are concerned. This is one Kolkata, Petrapol, Benapol, Dhaka, Akhaura, Agartala could be one possible possible routes, and the second possible route is Agartala, Akhaura, Chittagong. So these are the two routes which could be started as part of the BBIN as of now. The second, the third one is Silchar, Sutarkandi, and Chittagong. That could be also one, Silchar in Assam, and then from Sutarkandi to the port of Chittagong. So these are the three. With regard to Bangladesh-Nepal routes, also this is the one, Kathmandu, Kakarvita, Fulbari, Bangamandha, Hatikamrul, Mongla. So this is the one which they have also, our Nepalese business people have also shown keen interest. So this will have to be developed. There are some missing links. One of those 30 projects tries to address that. The other is the Kathmandu, Kakarvita, Fulbari, Bangamandha, Hatikamrul, Chittagong. So this is the Chittagong route. The other one was the Mongla route. So could be possibly, and during the discussion we can also have some insights from our friends who are more knowledgeable than I am. So this is what a review of literature shows, that these could be the two routes from Nepal. The routes from Bhutan would be Samdrup, Jonkar, Gauhati, Shillong, Tamabil, Sylhet, Chittagong. This could be one from the Bhutan. The other from Thimphu, we may have a Thimphu, Phulshillong, Jaigan, Burimari, Hatikamrul, Mongla. So this could be the left one could be the other one. So we can see that Mongla port could become a major hub, and as Professor Sobhan also had mentioned in some of his books, that if Bangladesh has the potentiality to become Singapore of the East, and if that we have to do, then these ports have to be the major hubs, and here is an opportunity to really develop those with larger hinterland. And if we can then, as I was telling, that many things are also happening, the BCM economic corridor and other initiatives. So if one can have an integrated seamless connectivity, then obviously there is a potential that we can mention. The other is the Thimphu, Phulshillong, Jaigan, Burimari, Hatikamrul, Chittagong. So there is the third possible route which we can also think about. So these are the major routes which we can think about if in the context of the BBN and the projects that have been 30 projects that have been mentioned. Now here we wanted to really have a comparative study of the three MVAs which are there: Bangladesh, India, SAARC, and BBIN framework. And here on the left side we have the various indicators, whether there is a quota restriction, whether there is a cabotage operation restriction. Cabotage meaning that if you take the goods, for example, from Bhutan to Mongla port, whether you are allowed also by that same truck to take goods from Mongla to Bhutan. So there are restrictions with regard to that. In all these, in the Bangladesh-India MVA, there was provision, but what we can see from the drafts of the agreements, that this provision also holds with regard to the others. So this is a major restriction, the cabotage restriction. There was a quota restriction, and we have seen in the Bangladesh-India based on reciprocity, but here in the other two we don't see that there is any mention that if you allow 20 trucks from our side, we will also allow 20 trucks from outside. That is not mentioned. The other route operation, vehicle registration, driving license, passenger identification, all these have are aligned with international protocols. Fees and charges, it is mentioned that it will have to be decided by the contracting parties, and this is one of the key issues which we will have to keep in mind. If we continue the comparative study, we also see that the environmental issue was particularly mentioned in Bangladesh-India MVA, but these are not mentioned in BBIN MVA. And with regard to the inclusion of new members, The first two didn't really mention, but the BBA and MVA has gone one step further and said that they can mention, they can include new members. So there is an opportunity of also, if we have the SARC MVA, then the BBA and MVA can also extend towards the east, China or Myanmar at one point of time. So this is allowed. Now, if we look at the from Bangladesh perspectives, and if we study and make an assessment of the global best practices, so these are the things that are there in the global best practices, because there are many motor vehicle agreements which are there. We see that those agreements include definitions and objectives, scope and principles of operations, enabling criteria for road transport movement, technical specifications, for example, vehicle weight. What will be the vehicle weight? What will be the dimension and specification? What will be the load capacity of the roads and bridges? What type of designs? All these are included in those motor vehicle agreements. Customs regime. What will be the customs regime? Transit and inland customs clearance regime, commodity classification system, customs duties and charges, revenue requirements, the exemptions, taxes and fees, trade facilitation measures, other issues. So all these will have to be there in an ideal MVA, because if these are not there, even if we have the motor vehicle agreement, then obviously there will be a lot of problem in terms of crossing the borders. So these will have to be decided and negotiated and consulted upfront. Otherwise, then we will have the same problem at the border crossing point. And as I was mentioning, that our borders are control points, not crossing points. So if we cannot facilitate with these, all this, considering all these, now, if we look at the BBIN, we think that it has been designed very good, the draft that we have. As I said, there is openness to new members, all types of vehicles are permitted, third country traffic is allowed, mutual recognition of vehicle registration is there, facilities for transport operators have been mentioned, and review of the system periodically is also there. So if there is a difficulty, there is a mechanism to discuss and resolve those. What needs to be detailed out, obviously, are the standard operating procedures, so that there is smooth passing of the vehicles. Vehicle weight and axle load dimensions, etc., will have to be thrashed out. Road design construction standards, the prescribed routes that I was telling. Some of the restrictions which are there, as we have seen, the permit requirements seems to be a bit onerous. These will have to be, the requirements will need to be brought down to rational levels. Harmonization and simplification of the various documentation procedures will have to be there, concrete guidelines. We don't see that there is provision for priority clearance and green channels. We have seen through our study that in many of the MVAs, this is there. If it is a perishable item, for example, do you have the same queue, or you have a different queue for perishable items at the border, crossing border? Do you have green channel? Do you issue certification to operators who have already shown that they are okay? Do you have special facilities for them? So these are restrictions which perhaps in subsequent discussions our friends from the ministries can discuss those. We did a comparative assessment following the World Bank procedures, scoring system. World Bank had developed a scoring system based on whether there is a route restriction, whether third country access is allowed, whether there is transparency mechanism, whether there is restriction for cabotage, whether there is transit quota limitations, etc. So there is a score, and we saw that the BBA and MVA scores really very good. 64 out of 100, and out of the 77 MVAs which have been ranked by the World Bank, it comes to about 15. So it's more or less, it's a very good in terms of what is there. The challenge now obviously is to implement. And what we try to do is that we try to study the Mekong Basin cooperation, the trade facilitation agreement, And then we wanted to see what are the annexes and protocols over there, and whether those also could be helpful for our friends when they will discuss the implementation issues. So there are various annexes with regard to carriage of dangerous goods, registration of vehicles and international traffic. In international traffic, carriage of perishable goods, I was mentioning that there are arrangements for carriage of perishable goods, road traffic regulations, etc. So there are a lot of things which I have just listed here in order for them to look at these and then design our own protocols and SOPs according to that. And there is also mention about, as I said, corridors, etc. through protocols, and also what is important, the charges concerning, which is also a major issue of interest in Bangladesh and I think amongst all the parties. What will be those charges? And in the GMS, what is really interesting is that they start with the efficiency in collection of charges. So charges will have to be there, user charges and various other charges and surcharges, but those should not be binding constraints in terms of implementing and smooth movement of vehicles. So that is what they start with. And they then mention what are the permissible charges: tolls, charges for excess weight, charges for administrative expenses, charges for the use of facilities, taxes on fuel purchased in the host country. So sometimes it is a matter of conflict that some of the countries provide a lot of fuel subsidy. So why would I give fuel subsidy to my own transport operators? Why I would give it to someone coming from other countries? So there are also mechanisms and protocols in order to identify what will be the fuel taxes, how these will be collected, and when these will be collected. So this is very important from the context of Bangladesh as well. Road maintenance fees, etc. So obviously cost recovery will be one concern when we will be fixing fixed cost, operational cost, port use fees, insurance. Sometimes it can also be environmental and pollution surcharges. Some of the countries have congestion surcharges. So all these will need to be discussed. As I have mentioned, the ministers have talked about $8 billion of investment. Our own Ministry of Roads and Highways Department also estimates that for every kilometer upgradation to international level, about taka 25-30 crore will be needed, which is about 3.7 million. So if you are talking about, for example, a 300 million kilometers of renovation of roads, it's already $1 billion. So that's a large amount of investment, and we need to really factor those in. On the other hand, if I just take the bilateral Bangladesh-India movement, from Agartala to Kolkata through the Chicken Neck, 1645 kilometer. Through Bangladesh, it will be about 400 kilometer. So a distance reduced by 76%, more than two-thirds. Distance can be reduced. If you are talking about the current cost of the rail transport from northwest of India, then it is estimated that it is 30 USD per ton, which can be reduced if it passes through Bangladesh to 11. So less than two-thirds of the cost. The case for road cargo, right now through the Chicken Neck, USD 150 per ton, dollar per ton, it can be reduced to $50 per ton. So this is what the economics is telling us. So is there an opportunity for sharing the benefits? Yes, there is a tremendous opportunity to sharing the benefits through a win-win, because that difference is so significant. But on the other hand, we will have to also be prepared that what I charge, my partner will also be charging when my transport will be traveling through their territory. That will be one consideration. If there is investment support by partner country in building the roads, obviously I will have to factor those support into my calculation and my calculus. Of course, the fees and surcharges and everything will have to be done in a manner that the incremental gains should offset additional cost, fees and surcharges. In fact, Dr. Rahmatullah did some work which showed that for some places from rest of West India to some of the Northeast India, it will still be profitable to continue the current transport. So one will have to take into account that if the surcharges are or the fees are onerous, then the transport, the companies will be using the traditional routes. So one will have to be very intelligent in terms of really deciding on what type of fees and surcharges. But the difference is so much that we think that it will be very much possible to do it intelligently in a mutually rewarding way and through win-win solutions. Now going forward, obviously we have a number of milestones. The protocols will have to be and the SOPs will have to be now finalized and formalized. Then these will have to be approved. Then there is also talk about this BBIN friendship motor rally, which will we hope galvanize also people's attention, and then the preparatory works will need to be completed. So next 6 months a lot of work will have to be done if we want to really keep to what the ministers have mentioned. The 2 committees will have to be set up. We are hoping that the Bangladesh government already is looking into it. One is the national committee in the individual country. The other is our representation in the joint committee of the BBIN. All these will have to be done in good time. So the last issue that I would like to mention, as I started also, that there are various things going on. Investment cooperation, and we are talking about special economic zones to be given to India in Mongla and Kustia. We are also talking about development of our roads. We have the Indian $1 billion is being implemented. There is also proposal during the recent visit of $2 billion of line of credit. So all this will have to be in an integrated way. I'm talking from Bangladesh perspective. That what we have seen in earlier cases is that these are so much disjointed that Bangladesh sometimes is not being able to really take full advantage because we don't have the coordination. So if you really set up the special economic zones and give it to India in Mongla and say Kustia, then obviously the transport connectivities will also have to be designed in a manner that we can take advantage of those investments going into India, taking advantage of the zero tariff offer of India which has been given to the LDCs. So all these will need to be, and also our future plans with regard to development of a Paira port, renovating our Mongla port, all these things will have to be integrated. The second point that I wanted to mention is that the transport and which takes from the first point, an investment strategy has to be very much coordinated, and it should be reflected in our 7th five-year plan which we are now designing. And the third is that sometimes in Bangladesh we have seen that many good initiatives don't have popular support because those have not been handled properly. And so what we are telling is that it is not enough to design the implementation modalities to ensure win-win outcomes. It is also equally important that this is perceived to be so by the citizens. I think citizens will also need to know what are the benefits and what are the costs involved. So it is very important that there is a transparency in the follow-up actions. What protocols we are doing, what standard operating procedures we will be pursuing, these are very important. And that we are also arguing that all relevant documentations with regard to BBI and MVA, all protocols, permits, forms, information about fees, surcharges, all this should be available free, in dedicated websites. We think that in 21st century these are very important. For example, we have the MVAs, but at the border we don't have electronic data exchange. We don't have single window. So we may end up with MVA, but we may be stuck up with the same problems of the old. So what we are telling is that these have to be transparent. The citizens should have the access to all the information, and all the efforts which are being undertaken right now should be integrated and dealt with in a comprehensive manner. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. You've covered a wide canvas and have put all the key issues on the table. So to initiate the discussion, we have a designated discussant, Mr. Khairuzzaman Mujumdar, who has been associated with this issue and is now Deputy Chief of Party in the U.S. Aid Bangladesh Trade Facilitation activity. So 10 minutes for your comments, please.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Chair and Chairman, Center for Policy Dialogue, Professor Rehman Sobhan, Guest of Honor and President, Federation of Bangladesh Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Abdul Matlub Ahmad, His Excellencies, High Commissioner of India, Mr. Pankaj Saran, and Ambassador of Nepal, Mr. Kumar Shrestha, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We have just seen an excellent presentation made by Professor Mustafizur Rahman, which highlighted the recent developments in South Asia in terms of transport connectivity, including the recently concluded Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal motor vehicle agreement. It also focused on the implementation challenges associated with the operationalization of the agreement. So here, I am not in a position to attempt any critique on such a brilliant elaboration of progress made in cross-border movement of motor vehicles in the region. Instead, what I will do, I will try to highlight the operational concerns that will need to be addressed in the coming months if the 4 South Asian sub-regional countries wants to see quick implementation of the motor vehicle agreement. The major highlights of this agreement are 3, that is regular passenger transportation, non-regular passenger transportation, and the third one is regular cargo transportation. So, in terms of regular passenger transportation, it implies that passenger transportation undertaken by authorized operators of a BVIN country to another BVIN country or countries. So, operationalization of this particular area will not be difficult, as we already have a lot of experience in this area. We have these Dhaka Kolkata, Dhaka Agartala, Dhaka Siliguri, and the newly opened Dhaka Guwahati bus services. The second category is non-regular passenger transportation. This involves movement of all types of passenger vehicles of one BVIN country to another for the purpose of tourism, pilgrimage, etc. Now, to me, this is a milestone achievement in enhancing connectivity in the region, as it allows movement of personal vehicles. Now, because of this agreement, travelers or tourists will be able to travel from one country to another driving their own personal vehicle. However, this is not a new phenomenon. We currently have around the world, we have this carnet de passage system, which follows the guidelines of the 1954 UN Convention on the same. However, there has been some instances of, many instances of misuses in Bangladesh of the carnet de passage system. And the current situation is that MVAs actually discourages the system. So we could discourage carnet de passage system because we are not a signatory of the UN Convention. But now that we have this agreement, motor vehicle agreement, and where an important condition is to allow this type of personal vehicle. So here we cannot impose similar restrictions. Instead, we need to work how we can improve the system so that what problems we faced with the carnet de system cannot happen in the case of personal vehicle movement in these 4 countries. Therefore, appropriate modalities will have to be developed so that the following issues are taken into consideration. One is a pass or certificate issued by a reasonable government or private sector organization. The second is a tracking mechanism. This mechanism was very weak under the carnet de passage system. My belief is that if, since the passenger is traveling with the vehicle, so if we connect it with the arrival and arrival departure of the passengers, then the leakage, revenue leakage will be stopped. The third one is appropriate guarantee against non-return of vehicles within the stipulated period. The third category, the regular cargo transportation, this is very important. Actually, that's what we are here today. It implies transportation of goods undertaken by authorized operators of a BVIN country for a destination in another BVIN country. This should be the main area of concern, as I have mentioned. Cross-border movement of cargo carriers will be of immense benefit in facilitating connectivity and therefore integration in the Sussex sub-region. My understanding is that operationalization of cargo transportation will require adequate attention of the policymakers in two areas. The first one is transport infrastructure. This one was amply highlighted by Professor Mustafizur's presentation. So it highlighted 8 routes that will be designated for the purpose of motor vehicle agreement. The Bangladesh portion in most of these designated routes are generally poor in terms of riding quality and structural strength. Although significant portions of national and regional highways along these routes satisfy the requirement 2-lane highways, there are still sections that need to be widened and improved to carry heavily loaded foreign trucks. We know that development partners have been assisting Bangladesh in improving the road transport infrastructure in the country. Perhaps this will have to take some years to complete. Some parts of the routes are being converted into 4 lanes, but some of the projects are still in their inception phases. The development of these routes and other road infrastructure will be critically important for Bangladesh if it wants to move ahead with the future connection with Asian highway, leading to inclusion of Myanmar and China into this multilateral transport agreement. I am not going into details on the infrastructure because of the time constraints, and I believe there will be a lot of discussion from the participants. But the second issue where I usually work, that is state facilitation, I want to highlight some of the issues. The first issue is that of traffic in transit. Traffic in transit has 2 components. One is transit or through transit, that is transportation with the same, without change of conveyance, and the other one is transshipment. Now let us examine whether the motor vehicle agreement among the 4 countries allow transit. To decide on this issue, we need to focus on 2 particular sections of the agreement, and we need to examine them carefully. The first one is Article 1I. It defines regular cargo transportation as transportation of goods undertaken by authorized operators of a BVN country for a destination in another BVN country. This word destination is very important. And the second one is paragraph 1 of Article 2 of the agreement allows cargo vehicles for inter-country cargo, including third country cargo. The word inter-country cargo is also very important. My observation after a careful examination of these 2 sections is that the agreement covers movement of inter-country cargo exported. If we examine it more precisely, I think it covers the following 3 types of cargo. The first one is cargo exported from India and imported by Bangladesh or vice versa. This will be considered as inter-country cargo. Then cargo exported from Bangladesh and imported to India or vice versa. Cargo exported from Bangladesh and imported by Bhutan through India or vice versa. This will be called third country cargo. When it is going through India, for India it will be a third country cargo. Similarly, if goods, a truck moving from Bhutan through Bangladesh into India, then for Bangladesh this will be considered as the third country cargo. So my assessment is that after reading this agreement is that it does not cover transit of goods between 2 Indian ports, that is between mainland India and northeast India. Again, as it is a motor vehicle agreement allowing cross-border movement of a cargo consignment through a particular vehicle, which can be a truck, a covered van or a trailer, it cannot cover the multimodal transshipment operations. This implies that the agreement will not allow goods to be moved from northeast India to Chittagong or other ports destined to be exported to countries other than Bangladesh, Bhutan or Nepal. So my understanding is that it may be required that there will have to be a separate multimodal transshipment transit agreement, framework agreement on transit, which will cover all 3 routes, that is road, rail or riverways, and including all the unimodal or multimodal transports. However, my understanding is that this is a very important agreement. It is an important stepping stone. As we examine these 2 important sections, changing some of the wordings in those 2 sections, we can make a lot of improvement in and we can cover the road-based transit in this agreement. So it is not to be said that transit is not covered. It could be covered by changing the agreements in the MVA agreement. The second important issue after the issue of traffic in transit is that of customs procedure. Professor Mustafizur be devised through protocols or modalities. The most important issue of this motor vehicle agreement is what is called domestic transit. This is already covered. This means that movement of goods under customs control intended for import. If we examine the Bangladesh situation at the moment, we can see that this is only allowed between Chittagong and Dhaka using the railway route. There are two ways. First, goods will have to be containerized, and the second one is import documents will have to mention Komalapur ICD as a destination. So, in this case, the motor vehicle agreement will enable Bangladesh customs to allow domestic transit from land ports also. That is, if an importer wants to make customs clearance at Dhaka or Narayanganj, instead of using the Benapole for his ease of convenience, the customs will have to allow this. Previously, this was not possible because there was no motor vehicle agreement in the country. So this is very good development, but at the same time, it also creates a big challenge for the government. Why? Because if we can see that the movement of trucks through Benapole entering into the Bangladesh part, they are mostly open trucks. But if we are to allow domestic transit, it will be very difficult because the goods will be moved from Benapole to Dhaka or Narayanganj or Sylhet, wherever the importer wants. So if it is an open track, then it will be a lot of responsibility for the customs to ensure that there will not be revenue leakage or any security breaches. So to facilitate domestic transit, I believe that it will have to be in covered trucks or containerized trailers. And I believe the following actions will have to be taken. The first one is the governments in all these countries will have to encourage the transport operators so that they use more and more the covered trucks or containerized trailers. Secondly, that the government needs to adopt adequate measure to ensure that, as was done in the case in Chittagong using the railway route, to ensure that security of passage and prevention of revenue leakage is guaranteed. So I believe this is a very good agreement, and if we can carefully identify the different procedures, this will be a great achievement in terms of achieving regional connectivity in the 4 areas. So I thank you all, and I also give my special thanks to CPD for inviting me as the discussion. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for a very business-like presentation pointing out very practical issues which would need to be addressed. Now we have about 45 minutes or so of floor discussion. We have some very key people over here associated with this from various ministries of the government who are in fact having to deal with this. Plus we have a number of very important people both from the diplomatic side and from the business and professional side. So we will in fact look forward to having a very constructive discussion. Let me open up this discussion then. Now, before you proceed, what I would like you to keep in mind over here is that this agreement which is on the table is in fact really activating what once upon a time existed long ago. It isn't that we are doing anything very new. In 1965, up to 1965, anyone could get on a train at Sialda station in Calcutta and come up to Gwalando Ghat and then take the ferry to Dhaka. And when I was in fact returning from England in 1957, I could buy a ticket at Lahore railway station to take me all the way to Howrah station in Calcutta. So what we are now doing is we are in fact really rediscovering some sort of ancient facilities which existed for centuries. And we are in a way reconstructing a wheel which existed, which was broken down, and which is now restoring the connectivities in this region to what they were and to now approximate to what exists in every other region in the world. So, whilst we should compliment ourselves on signing this agreement, we should be giving only a one-handed clap for, in fact, joining the 21st century and rediscovering the era of the Chandragupta Mauryas, when in fact all these routes were actually fully integrated, and that South Asia was, of all the developing countries in the world, probably the most integrated region anywhere in the world. So, keeping this perspective in mind, let the discussion proceed and address then the practical issues which we have put on the table. I will, in fact, at the conclusion of this discussion, when the main special guests come in, I will try to put on the table certain specific ideas to them on issues that they may take up, because these are people who are of some consequence in addressing the practical problems before us. Oh, I see. কি কাদের
স্যার কেমন আছে?
তুমি যে অত দেরি করে আসছো কি
না
ব্যাপার?
পার্লামেন্ট সেশনে আছে, আমার কিছু
সেশনে
করার
আছে?
নেই। হ্যাঁ,
আচ্ছা, বসো, আলহামদুলিল্লাহ।
আমি কখনো দেরি করি না, আমার কোনো রেকর্ড দেরি করা।
চলো,
কেমন আছেন? সবাই
Thank you. come,
ফ্রম নেপাল।
Nepal, Excellency.
please. We are happy to have the minister with us, and he, of course, is the person who is going to have to implement this agreement and other aspects of the agreement. So he, of course, was delayed in Parliament, but his presence here is particularly important. Actually, before the discussion further proceeds, one of the issues that you may all keep in mind when you are having the open discussion is that critical to all this is how the actual users of these facilities are going to react, because at the end of the day, goods and services, whether we are using road transport, rail, or waterways, will have to basically be utilized mostly by the business community. And when they in fact use these facilities, they will take into account the conveniences and inconveniences of crossing borders under different modalities, and whether to switch from the ways in which they are moving their goods and services is a more profitable proposition. Again, for those Bangladeshis present over here who are not that old, it should be kept in mind that up to 1965, one of the biggest businesses in East Pakistan at that time was carrying cargo from Calcutta to Guwahati in Assam, mostly cargoes for tea exports from the Assam gardens to abroad and goods to Guwahati, and that three of the biggest corporate businesses at that time were the Joint River Steamer Company, which was the biggest multinational company located in the territory of East Pakistan. There was Park Bay, there was the R.P. Shah's company, Bengal Navigation, and there was another company. Four companies were some of the biggest business houses, and they were making their money by carrying these goods from Kolkata to, in fact, Assam. So the biggest significant impact of establishing connectivity is not the renting out of the real estate of Bangladesh to get a few bucks for transit. The real value added is for people like Mr. Matlub Ahmad and the business community of Bangladesh to follow in the footsteps of the Joint River Steamer Company in Park Bay and to take their container trucks to Kolkata and to pick up cargo over there from warehouses and to deliver it to Northeast India, so that the biggest business houses in Bangladesh will not just be ready-made garments, they will be actually the container service trucks and the transport services, which will in fact actually utilize this facility. Then this whole debate about carrying the costs of investment will be paid by Mr. Matlub Ahmad, because he will be making the profits out of that particular business, and the minister and Mr. Mohit can in fact impose whatever taxes they can, so that he will in fact share part of his profits with the government of Bangladesh in that basis. This is a win-win situation for everybody, where the business community of Bangladesh will in fact make itself into one of the biggest beneficiaries of the carrying of goods. And that in the final analysis, the big business is not going to be in carrying goods merely from Kolkata to the northeast of India. The big business is simply going to be to carry goods from Bangladesh into India and India into Bangladesh, and from Bangladesh into the northeast, where connectivity is going to make Bangladesh and not the companies of eastern India into the main source of supply of northeastern India. So that in fact the real business opportunity is going to be the opening up of the northeast through improved connectivity for suppliers to locate their factories and warehouses and their import connections to the supply to carry goods there. And ideally, I would like to visualize a situation where the tea of Assam does not go to Kolkata for its auction, but will actually go to the Chittagong auctions, because that will be a more competitive service to make available to them. So if you want to visualize a future for Bangladesh, as we said, we have the potential of being the Singapore of the land routes. And the Singapore of the land routes is not earned its reputation by renting out its real estate. It is by being centrally located and availing of the huge business opportunities which comes from there. And in this part of the relationship, we have to recognize that the agreements in the South Asian region are part of a much bigger picture. And CPD has not just been engaged in promoting the issue of connectivity within South Asia, but from 1999, we were the founder members of the BCIM initiative, which in fact took shape through 4 institutions long before the governments really came on board in this. And now I read in today's or yesterday's newspaper that China is talking of making billions of dollars of investment in building a high-speed rail link from Kunming through Myanmar, through Bangladesh, all the way to Kolkata. So this is an idea in which not just academics are now talking, but governments have entered into agreements, and huge sums of money are ready to be invested in this process. So look at this whole discussion from this wider perspective, and then let us see how we can actually move forward to create a seamless, connected region in which the opportunities of Bangladesh being between the 2 biggest or emerging economic powers in the world can in fact really get the full benefits of this relationship. Okay, now let us open up the discussion. And initially, if there are 1 or 2 people from within the government departments dealing with this who may have a few practical interventions to make, I would in fact look forward to that. Is there anyone who might want to come in? Yes, is there someone here who is, yeah, that immediate, what is the immediate problem? সমস্যাটা কি? আপনি এটা সবকে একটু বুঝান।
So I think the immediate action we have to do, we have to plan, that is the making the protocols and the bilateral and trilateral agreements within the time frame of the 6 months. This is the main purpose for us, particularly all the government officials, including road transport and Minister of Road Transport and Bridges and other Ministry of Commerce, NBR and all other departments. They are very much connected with these efforts. And you see in the presentation there is a regarding the fuel subsidy. I mentioned that this is in the agreement. It is in agreement article 7.2, sub-article 2. In the last line it is said that in case of refueling, the destination of transit contracting parties may charge the unsubsidized price on a reciprocal basis. So this is in this agreement. And in the meeting we have some land transport projects which we agree. Out of 28 projects for this, we in Bangladesh we have selected 7 projects. If the chair permits, I can mention the names of the projects. All these, this is the running projects of completion of Dhaka-Chittagong National Highways, construction of new 4-lane Kachpur, Meghna and Gomti bridges. This is the new 4-lane bridges. Construction of new Padma Bridge and immediate approach roads. 4-laning roads of, between Benapol and proposed new Padma Bridge. 4-laning of Joydipur, Alenga, Hatikamrul, Rangpur, Burimari in one side, and from Rangpur to Banglabanda in another side, these 2 national highways. 4-laning of Dhaka, Kachpur to Norsindi, Shorail, Silet, Tamabil National Highway, and 4-laning of Baruyarhat, Hyako and Ramgor Highway. These are the 7 projects which we prefer for implementing this BBI and MBA.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sir. Sir. Thank you, sir. This is Manoj Kumar Roy from the Ministry of Commerce. Actually, sir, first of all, I have a vision that I see even before pre-Mughal era, there was an integrated economy existing in this region. Basically, what we are doing now, we are going back to that situation through these agreements, and that's a good symbol. And the second thing is that actually in 2012, I scoped to visit the Greater Mekong sub-region connectivity. I was astonished to see that what they have done, but we, the 4 countries, are not able to reach that level. And also, while actually BBI, SARC motor vehicle agreements actually was not successful, and just after that, His Excellency the Honorable High Commissioner of India handed over the first 0 draft of BBIN to the Minister of Commerce, which was basically a cut paste from the SARC motor vehicles agreement, and that was the first good starting of this BBIN. Now we are happy to see that BBIN is signed. But parallel to that, also there are already agreements for passengers already being implemented by the Ministry of Roads and Bridges Division. And on the other hand, bilaterally through the Ministry of Commerce for cargo, there are some initiatives, though none of these are yet implemented. Basically, under the trade agreement, very recently, both the countries, India and Bangladesh, has agreed to allow third country movement, and this has facilitated this basically BBIN, the goals and objectives are also, I think, the same that is being included in the trade agreement, which is basically both the countries agrees that cargoes will be moving using the territory of one country to the third countries. Now, as BBI will be going on, and also now there are pending modalities also. Already works done that is the protocols that will be required to implement BBIN. Already I think we have some draft almost finalized with Nepal modalities, and also there are some drafts pending with Bhutan even. So while we will be going to implement BBIN, while we will be actually designing or formulating the modalities, I think these documents which are now lying with us can help us a lot. Already we have designed that. So I think the Minister of Commerce along with the trade agreement that has been newly signed between India and Bangladesh, and also BBIN, and also the other agreements on Dhaka, Kathmandu, Dhaka, Agartala, or Dhaka, Kolkata, passenger vehicles, these already agreements are being here. So I think if the ministries work in a concerted way, I think we will be able to design the modalities. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Now, I'm told that we have the president of the Freight Forwarding Association, Mr. Mehbubul Anam.
Thank you, sir. I'm here.
Yeah, now, one question I would want to ask you is that have people from your association visited Kathmandu and Thimphu to in fact find out whether they are interested in using the services of Mongla and Chittagong port, and whether they will be hiring you as their freight forwarding agent to in fact deliver goods to the port? Because whilst we may discuss this in seminars, you as a business person will have to find out whether in fact those countries are going to find our facilities competitive. So please go ahead for that.
Thank you for Chair giving me the opportunity. I must thank the government of our countries for putting the first step forward. I mean, I have been involved with some of the CARTS projects with this, and indefinitely because it is facilitating the trade. So we must not forget the purpose of this BBIM, MVA, not just the connectivity, but it will facilitate the trade. We in between are into the supply chain of the connectivity of the businesses. And just to answer your question at first, that is not now. I have done transit through Dhaka, through Kamalapur ICD from Nepal, not now, in 20 years back, where the government did allow through the custom procedure, but it was quite a cumbersome procedure. The procedure does exist already. It was not a land connectivity, but it was more air to land connectivity, air to ocean connectivity. So this exists. So as I say that, as we're moving forward, the first thing would be to make this facilitation as bureaucratic free as possible. We must make it operationally easy for the stakeholders who will be involved in the movement of trade. As somebody mentioned, the Mekong Delta, which I believe one of the best in the region, which facilitates trade extensively, and few other issues which must be integrated is the customs. Knowing that it is not a cross-border, it's going to be moving from one country to another through certain restrictive movement. And unless such procedures, especially what is mentioned here is a single window, is done, it is not going to facilitate us in the time saving that is also needed in the time facilitation of the movement. There are two components that we must keep in mind: the cost, which has been already discussed, and also cost of time. So if both are not saved in the bottlenecking points, the roads will be improved. We will only move on the roads once we cross those borders. So the border crossing points must be addressed along with this agreement. So, and one other thing is definitely is very restrictive of this agreement is the cabotage, without which I don't think there will be success in movement of trade. Knowing that between Bangladesh and India, which is our second largest importing country into this after China, has got a $3.5 billion to $500 million trade. So if a truck moves from Dhaka to Delhi, which we are doing at the moment with transshipping from one truck to another truck, most of the garments that is under non-quota position, then the truck is going to come empty all the way from Delhi back to Bangladesh, which is not going to make cost effective with the fuel cost and whatever we do. So what will happen is we'll go back to the traditional route with the way we are doing. We are just moving cargo from one truck to the other truck on the border and go through the same. So it is not going to facilitate our trade. So what I see that there's quite a bit of restriction. There is some openness, yes. We appreciate that. But I think in terms of formulating further into the operating procedures, we must look into those restrictions and look into the best practices done in the region, which I think Mekong Delta is one of the best that I have read around through that. One other issue is that obviously there will be national committee and the joint committee. In the national committee, I think the stakeholders should be included, because stakeholders actually in practice will be dealing with day-to-day affairs. So I think those are the few important issues that we look at, and we again encourage all the donor agencies to come forward with that $8 billion project, without which I don't think we'll get the full fruit of this facilitation, which is not only moving trucks but moving businesses. Thank you.
Before I invite some business community people in, we have the counselor of the Bhutanese embassy with us, right? Has anyone been giving any thought in Bhutan, counselor, about using the facilities of Mangla or Chittagong port, and have anyone been doing calculations as to whether this will in fact be good business for you? Yeah, could you come forward and give us some idea as to whether you will take advantage of this facility?
Bangladesh has kindly granted us that Mongla and Chittagong port. We really intend to use that, but not in the immediate future. But since we are using some other ports, seaports, as and when we get the traffic high in India and all those, we are thinking to use Chittagong and Mongla as an alternative.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
এখানে আমরা যখন ভুটানে ছিলাম তখন কিং অফ হিজ ম্যাজেস্টি কিং অফ ভুটান তার সঙ্গে একটা বায়োলেটারাল টকস হয়, সেখানে আমি এবং আমার সেক্রেটারি ছিলেন। তিনি যে বিষয়টা প্রপোজ করেছেন সেটা হচ্ছে ভুটান wants to use Mongla Airport, Mongla Port and Saidpur Airport. Saidpur, we are going for expansion of the airport very soon.
Okay, thank you. Now from the business side, who have we got who may want to say what problems they face and what are they expecting from this agreement in terms of facilitating their business access. I know that our friends from Pran who have been exporting to the Northeast have always been complaining about the practical difficulties of connecting with the Northeast. Now, do they see any opportunities here? Is the actual road traffic entering into the Northeast serviceable for exporters to in fact use these facilities?
Thank you, sir. This is indeed a phenomenal effort taken by the governments of BBIN, especially
Could you introduce yourself, please?
Sir, this is Muhammad Tanvir Islam. I am the General Manager Export of Pran RFL Group. So this is indeed a phenomenal effort, splendid effort taken by the governments. And I think this will enhance and increase the bilateral trades and also the trades with the third countries in manifold. So especially we are the exporters, we export in different countries of SAARC, and also we import a lot, especially the raw materials from India. So it was a big challenge for us to reduce the transportation cost, which affected our both import and export a lot. Now this MVA will facilitate our trade, and it will increase the trade in versatile way. So firstly, what I want to mention that this transit, not only the transit through Bangladesh, but also the trade with the third countries, that will play really a vital role, especially exporting our goods to Nepal and Bhutan through India. At present, for last many years, if we wanted to send our goods, we had to send it up to our land customs, then wait for the vehicles from Nepal and Bhutan come and carry the goods. Now I think this MVA will allow us to send our goods directly through our vehicles up to Kathmandu, and in Bhutan up to Thimphu. That will be possible, and that will really reduce the effort and the cost, and especially for the perishable goods, because for loading and unloading many times, and especially carrying out the loading and unloading under the open sky in the rainy season, that used to cause huge damage of our perishable goods. And also this will facilitate to enhance the trade facilities not only within Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal and India. Also in near future we expect that we can make the connectivity with our other neighbors of this region like China and Myanmar. We don't have the common border with them, and this will facilitate our connectivity with them, provided by the construction of new routes that will lead our export and import up to their border. So to make this successful, what measures should be taken, that is well covered by Dr. Mustafizur. I fully agreed with that. We have a lot of things to do and unfold to make this MVA successful. In addition, I like to mention some points. That is, first, we need to take the step to construct the multi-lane highways in Bangladesh side immediately, especially in Akhaura side, which connected with the Akhaura-Agartala border, then in Sylhet side, which connected us with Assam through Shaula-Sutarkandi borders, and also in Panchagor, where we are connected through the Burimari-Changrabanda borders. Because in India side, the multi-highway lanes are already constructed. In Akhaura, in Agartala, they have finished the construction. Also in Siliguri side, they have finished the construction, but in Bangladesh side we need to construct the multi-lane highways, otherwise we will not be able to take the traffics, because when this motor vehicle agreement will be implemented, that time the vehicle movement will increase manifold, and that time if we do not construct the highways, then it will make a queue of maybe 15 or 100 kilometers. So that is a vital thing. Another thing, in land custom borders, we need to implement the automation system immediately. Especially the documentation, we need to implement the single window system. Then we have to put the scanners for checking, because if we do the checking in manually, that will again consume lot of times. And also, thank you, sir.
Sir, thank you very much. I thought I'll be listening only and learning. Mustafizur. First of all, let me express my personal satisfaction and thanks to the government of BBIN countries for having such a courageous, I should say, an agreement. This has laid down actually a good stone for a good transit system to be developed in future. As you know that many people are talking about transit. Transit is not only motor vehicle, but transit is multimodal. Most importantly for India, Bangladesh trade and India, Northeast India trade, multimodal is more important through Akhaura and then Ashuganj and then by river port. That is the cheapest. So we must, I think Monirujaman also has correctly mentioned that this agreement does not cover that. Thank you, Monirujaman. Okay. So we'll have to look into this problem. Secondly, as we go on, the connectivity is always good. But the most important problem is when you are connected, then everything becomes a common property. And for the common property, nobody likes to take care. The problem of the transit, not only here, but also in NAFTA, if you start from NAFTA, and then you come to European Union, then you come to our ASEAN, then GMS, then we have CARECs. Recently, there is a CAREC connectivity, Central Asian connectivity, then there is an ECO connectivity, then there is SADC, COMESA. So everywhere this problem comes later on. Who pays for whom? So Switzerland is a good example of transit keeping. So Switzerland, if we really, everybody here, all these four parties here involved in this process can go through the Swiss formula, then everything could be resolved. So I think the present agreement is a little bit short than the Swiss formula. So this agreement needs to be a little bit extended in many dimensions. But I am still very happy in the sense that this has really laid down a provision. I would also like you to give attention to the railways. This Dr. Rahman Sobhan has correctly mentioned. In fact, this area of land was connected through railway a long time before any other countries was connected through railway. And railway connection is most important for goods movement and people, and also for passenger movement. But here in Bangladesh, either rail system is not working very well. Sir is here. It was his department before, not now. There is a different minister. But rail is for mass communication of goods and mass communication of people. Rail is one of the most important roads. So later on, I think we should look into this railway connectivity also. Because for Northeast India and India, rail connectivity could be one of the most important thing. And then, I think business people has correctly mentioned that you need infrastructure, but who builds for whom? Question, once upon a time there will be a question that why Bangladesh will build for others? So it should be the users. I think the chair has correctly mentioned, it should be the users, road users, who should pay for the development and maintenance of the road, rail and other facilities, not the people. So thank you, sir. With this, let me express my heartfelt thanks also to Minister and through him to other four countries, those who has rightly take this courageous effort to sign this agreement. Thank you, sir.
I will be bringing in two more people before we move on, and I'll perhaps address some specific questions to our diplomatic friends here. Mr. Ali Ahmad, CEO of the BFTI, please make a very brief intervention if you would.
Well, thank you, sir, very much for giving me the floor. A lot of things have already been said. I'd like to start with thanking Dr. Rahmatullah. I was in the government then and used to attend in CPI and in the government his meetings, and I saw his serious attempts at trying to make the Asian Highway Railway a reality. Unfortunately, as Dr. Mustafizur Rahman came, the idea was there, but its time was not then there. I believe it has come at long last, and your own personal efforts. Well, sir, the things come again and again, and my friend Dr. Mujibur Rahman also has raised the question of funding this. This is very vital. Now, of course, there are differences, but the whole country and the whole region now seems to be united in having this connectivity, multimodal and otherwise. But the question is of funding. These are poor countries, especially Bangladesh is one of the poorest. Funding all these mileages of roads and railways is going to be tremendous. We are talking of donors, but I think the government should be up and doing in trying to find funds for this. That is of topmost urgency. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. former Commerce Secretary.
Thank you, sir.
it's good that we have a BBIN motor vehicle agreement at long last, but we should compliment all the governments for doing that. But my point is, why do it take such a long time to really do something in this particular region? You see, the trade connectivity, better trade relationship in this region was discussed in the Northeast Business Summit in 2002 in Mumbai. I have the proceedings of the Northeast Business Summit here. Now, in that meeting, several chief ministers of the Northeast mentioned about this. The Tripura Chief Minister, Mr. Manik Sarkar, even suggested that the central government of India should give more trade privileges to Bangladesh to facilitate trade and all that. Chief Minister of Mizoram, even Chief Minister of the faraway remote place Arunachal also mentioned about it. Now point is, even after that, 13 years after the Northeast Business Summit, we do not have those facilities as yet. Only a small part of that motor vehicle agreement has been signed. And even that, even to operationalize this agreement, we have to do a lot of things, as has been mentioned by Professor Mustafizur, and others. Sorry, Khairuzaman. My second point is, with regard to movement of goods, you need land ports and river ports movement. This was also mentioned by the gentleman from the business a few minutes earlier. In 2002 in Mumbai, the Bangladesh government's Commerce Secretary, who was made the guest of honor there, he mentioned about the Banglabandha port, and he said that we are going to implement the Banglabandha land port and open it pretty soon. And we did that within 2 years. In May 2004, Banglabandha land port was commissioned. The full body land port on the other side of Banglabandha is still in the limbo. I have heard that a lot of investment has been made, but it has not been operationalized. There is no movement of goods to the northeast India through Banglabandha even now, even after 13 years of Northeast Business Summit in Mumbai. I really do not understand what is the real problem in starting the trade facilitation measures, in completing the state mission measures, and trying to get benefit from that. Thank you.
Thank you. Now in conclusion, can I bring in Dr. Ahmad, Rehman, former Secretary Ministry of Communication.
Thank you, sir.
Brief comment.
Yes. Yeah, I'm delighted to see the visibility of a dream of Dr. Rahmatullah, because we together participated in the SAC Communication Ministers Conference in Delhi, and we worked whole night to prepare Bangladesh presentation. And now the lessons learned from previous initiatives are also important. Especially, I was also Chairman National Tourism Bangladesh Porjoton Corporation. So in relation to connectivity, we had two projects, important projects. One is SAC Buddhist Circuit, connecting all Buddhist tourist facilities in Bangladesh, India, Nepal and Bhutan. And I personally took initiative and gave the contribution from Bangladesh side, but later our experience is not very good. So that is one of the learning experience. Then ongoing SATDIP project is also developing infrastructure for tourism. That is also not, I think, doing very well. So I think other initiatives under SASEC or BIMSTEC or Bay of Bengal initiative should be taken into consideration while implementing this project.
Now, important thing for Bangladesh, important issue with Bangladesh for infrastructure. In fact, ongoing roads construction is taking place. Our minister is always busy with visiting roads. But I think now the 4 lane is not sufficient. Now we should have 6 lanes or 8 lanes, especially Dhaka-Chittagong road, because already a lot of times have elapsed. Now I think we should think about expressway and other kind of transport and communication. And now maintenance is also important. I think there is a fund, World Bank initiated fund, road construction fund or authority something. So I think it is very important to have an autonomous fund taking representatives to run the fund from private sector and other research organization, other organizations. So that is also important. Now most important is people-to-people connectivity. And that's why people's perception is important. So I don't know, our business community should have a say in this regard when we are going to implement this MVA. And I think we have a bright future. Thank you.
Now before, who? Oh, Monim. Yes, you are building roads.
Yes, just thank you.
So coming very quickly, please. Brief remark.
Of course, it's a blessing in disguise that my father started it some 50 years ago and giving the road solution, and he has fallen in love with concrete, and we are doing it still. Thank you very much. I think it's a very rich and very, very rich gathering here. I can see people who are here can make a very easy decision. But I go back to my old saying that it's better late than never. My 2 very important take on this. One is, I had a very good experience after marriage traveling to Kuch Bihar, where happened to my father-in-law, former Chief Justice. He took me on a ride, and road was named after his father-in-law, as his father Abbasuddin. And I had the experience of traveling the terrain through Burimari, and I realized at that point in time that it is already too late not to have expressway of those. And second experience was with FBCCI when we traveled to Thimphu, Bhutan. And unfortunately our chairman car was stranded on the road, and there was service available at that time. And I had to carry him on my back and put him to the rest house, and we had to wait a day almost to fix the car and travel back. So these are my personal experience of having not to have this interconnectivity. But I would think one very critical issue is the financing part of it. We build roads, of course. We built one very important piece from Akhauda to Sultanpur, where you had to move the locomotives, and it was at that point in time we realized that the small roads won't happen. So you need to make, point well made by many observers here, you need to have very robust roads. But I believe in 2 things. One is only road will not help on this solution, because you need to use multi-modal transport, roads, railway and the river, because each of them has a specific role to play to make this connectivity work. Because unfortunately these countries don't have enough land and roads robust available, will not be available for the next 20 years per se to give a solution for that point in time. And the second point is the funding. I would request him to have an idea on issue of dollar bond to be raised of the sovereign countries, where you can raise money and the private sector can take on and make the BOT type of arrangements where you can pay for the development, and you will make the calculation on your own how commerce will make sense on this. So this will be my 2 quick introduction to that. Thank you.
Before I give the last word to my colleague Dr. Devapriya Bhattacharya, may I make one request to the Acting High Commissioner of Pakistan. Can we expect any time soon that Pakistan will sign on to the SARC MVA? Oh, Ronak. Okay.
I'm Sameena ji, CDA of Pakistan. So we also support the connectivity of the region. And what I know, I think we will support SARC connectivity programs and all the new initiatives taken by SARC. So let's see what comes in the next session of SARC.
I wanted to raise two issues. One is that we are talking a lot about expanding roads, 4 lanes, 6 lanes. I want to know what is the policies when we acquire land to give compensation to people who would be losing land, and also what would be the settlement policies, because whenever we build bridges and roads, we are thinking of some of the advantages, but a lot of people, poor people would be losing their land which would be acquired. So what is our current policies, or what are you thinking about, and also for either compensating them or rehabilitating them? I know that for the Jamuna Bridge and other things there was a big plan drawn up. And the second is that what is our realistic projection for completion of all these roads? I know even one flyover takes forever in Dhaka, so I would like to know answers to both. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Excellencies, colleagues, Mr. Minister. I think all of a sudden South Asia, and particularly this part of South Asia, has become a happening part of the world. That's very, very encouraging, because for many years we have been talking about the potentials, but we have never been able to move forward operationally. So the recent political movements and also the technical preparations have really given it a big boost. And CPD, with its efforts to promote regional and sub-regional cooperation for decades together, when it was not such a popular subject, a hype subject, we have done that against the current. And so we feel very much vindicated, and people are rightly remembering Mr. Rahmatullah today. My point is very simple, given all the discussions which has happened, is that opportunities do appear in life quite often, sometimes, but quite often, it happens sometimes, infrequently, but very often we fail to take full advantage of it. So my whole point is not about the principles, because we all agree over here this is a house of converted, and that how really we take full advantage of it from the specific national perspective, because at the end of the day, nation state has not evaporated because of a quadrilateral motor vehicles agreement. That still remains. Each of the countries are going to do their own things in their own way as the people want. So I see the preparations which are coming, which has been referred to, at least in 4 different types. One is definitely the technical preparations. The protocols will come into existence where we will discuss the restrictions which are there regarding cabotage. We will discuss regarding what type of vehicles can come into and go, origins of the vehicles, and many other things will be discussed there, border measures, scanning, containerization, and etc. The other will be the regulatory issue. There's the second track of the preparation, the regulatory issue. Regulatory issues in terms of not only how the in-transit vehicles and cargoes and the people will be managed, but also what will be charged, and etc., etc. The third is, of course, the financing issue, which has been discussed. Financing issues, as everybody says, that we need it, and Mustafiz mentioned $7 to $8 billion, if not more, because that's quite a dated estimate coming from Mujibur Rahman Committee of the Task Force on Transit at that time. And given the new routes which have been added, obviously the number will go up and obviously to another notch. So the issue which is there is that how this financing takes place. The experience shows that you can do financing as in case of Asian highways, that we build your own roads within your own territory and then link them up. So you're discrete but integrated. This is one approach of doing that. The other is that exclusively joint project, when you finance a particular line which is essentially done from that point of view of integration, which may not have national importance in that sense. And then, of course, there are other ways of financing, creating joint funds and bonds, which have been mentioned, and other ways. But the critical point is obviously the attribution. Who is going to pay back how much from that? Attribution is the critical point, and what type of coefficients we are going to use, whether cargo or passengers, or in terms of where it is located. For example, now the issue will be in terms of charges and fees that we will use on the basis of use. Now this use is, if you use more within this country, obviously we will pay more, and I do not use the other part at all. Is it good or bad?
So because if I don't use that, that is essentially, I do not use that for other purposes. So that will be the financing. But the financing issue, and Professor Ronak Johan asked when it will become operational. My question is also that. If you look at the Motor Vehicles Act, they talk about corridors. They talk about corridors, which essentially means without building everything, you can designate a certain lane or a road for the passage of vehicles from one part to another. Whether the road is ready or not, that's another question. But we can designate particular type and attribute that for that particular use. So this will be another issue which will come as we move. And the last part will be the political preparation. The Prime Ministers have signed the framework agreement in 2011, now in 2015, we have followed it up. It doesn't mean that need for political impetus will be gone. There will be many thorny issues on the way which will have to be resolved at the country level. I want to complete by saying two things. One, investment. Another is the fees and charges. There was a time when we heard very people in the high quarters said, don't utter the word WTO, that is something. So, and now we hear we will use WTO. In both cases, what is happening, people are uttering policy stances without doing necessary preparation, without having any clue what is the operational implication of saying WTO or not saying WTO essentially means. Possibly those people may not have read Article 5 of WTO and the freedom of transit part and the sub-articles of 3, 4 and 5, what it says about charges and other things. So what my one request with the minister present over here, request is that before making policy statements and from various quarters, please do have a bit of a study on what it essentially means for Bangladesh. And let me come to the conclusion by saying that that at this moment you will see there is lots of moving parts, not only in the vehicle agreements. We are having the India-Bangladesh relationship on the rise. We are having the water protocol just amended. We are having the coastal sea line over there, the transport. We have the railway issues. We have the transshipment through Ashuganj. And then we have the over and above this Motor Vehicles Act. How does they all add up? How does they all add up? And at the end of the day, who is really coordinating it? Each of them are separate ministries. Each of them are separate ministries. And theoretically, the foreign ministry is supposed to do the frontier, the person to lead the front, from the front. So what is the coordination mechanism within the government to really to deal with this? I don't see at this moment that the possibility which is there, how it will be really translated into reality through our own capacity development. The regulatory part has a lot to do with internal regulations as well. What are the implications for our own road transport system, regulation, management and investment? So I think quite often we happily, merrily go around without fully appreciating the burden we are taking on and how much we are really prepared for it. To conclude, you see in Bangladesh, as we are researchers, we'll try to theorize things and in order to hide our own inadequacies. So the point is, earlier there are two approaches quite often used in the trade negotiations, and I did part of it. One is the mercantilist approach. The mercantilist approach is quite often used in the WTO mechanism. That is, you give me some, I give you some, you will benefit from this, I will benefit from that. Export is good, import is bad. So that type of mercantilist approach is very much in the WTO mechanism. So we thought that benefit sharing in fixing the charges and things with India was the mercantilist approach. That this is our biggest asset, that we provide 1,000-kilometer shortening of the routes of the Indian cargo and we will benefit from it, and that is where we negotiate. That was the mercantilist approach. Now we are moving away from it, apparently. If we are moving away from it, there is another approach which is called the developmentalist approach. That is, you do not look at the short-term gains from the trade, you look at overall development benefit which you are going to acquire from it. Scaling up, scoping up, investment and other social and non-security issues over there. Possibly Bangladesh is moving from, I am reading the situation, maybe unconsciously, from a mercantilist approach to a developmentalist approach. But the developmentalist approach is much more challenging because it is not so simple, because it is multiple threads are very much there, capacities are important, negotiations and skills and domestic constituencies are important. So I bring to the notice of the policymakers that while we all agree on principles on all this, we need to be quite aware of the burden we are taking on to realize the full potential of it, and we do the necessary homework. And I can only ask this from my government, not from other governments. Thank you.
Thank you, Devapriya, for putting these on the table. Now we move to our special guests and the chief guest. And the first person I would like to invite is the new president of the FBCCI, Mr. Matlub Ahmad. I would like to point out over here, of course, that Mr. Matlub Ahmad is an old alumni of the Indo-Bangladesh Dialogues organized by CPD, and he has visited with us on a number of occasions to participate in these dialogues, both in Dhaka and in Delhi. And we have been trying to conscientize him on this as a businessman. So what I would look from him now is how is he seeing this as a business proposition? And the critical issue which in fact we put on the table before him, I hope he had raised it with Mr. Modi when he met him, is that we want him to carry all India's goods from Kolkata to Northeast India. And is he willing to get the transport sector of Bangladesh into a major exporter of services, so that many of these discussions will be made redundant, because you are in fact participating in the carrying trade, and you may at a later point bring in Indian, Nepali and Bhutanese business partners, so that this will become a big multinational corporate venture taking advantage of these opportunities. Mr. Matlub.
Thank you, Chairman CPD Rahman Sobhan Bhai, who is a pioneer to many new regional and development activities. In fact, my introduction to this regional connectivity is through participating in CPD initiatives both in Bangladesh and India. And we have with us our Honorable Minister for Transport and Bridges, His Excellency Mr. Obaidul Quader, a man who is seen always walking towards all his projects, whether it's bridge or roads. Every day he is on the road. And he's a man who will actually guide this new initiative of the new initiatives now that we're having. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I am thankful to Allah that I could make it to this meeting, because this was one of my favorite subjects during many past years. As a founder president of the India-Bangladesh Chamber, one of my main activities was market access and connectivity. Today I am very happy to see this agreement done, because while I am now the president of the business community, FBCCI, but I am also one of a large player in the logistic business in this country. And we could see the huge benefits that can come out of regional connectivity. In fact, I was in China only 2 days back, and I came from there, from Chengdu, and this was a meeting of the SAARC nations and China on the infrastructure. And the message that I got from there was very simple. The President of China had already sanctioned the other route, the route which passes through Pakistan, around $56 billion. And the new message was that they want the other route now, the second route, which passes through Myanmar, Bangladesh, India, to function. And the theme of this meeting was how we can do it and how fast we can do it. You've already heard the message from Kunming that a high-speed train from Kunming to Kolkata. So they have already recognized the huge potentiality of a regional connectivity. Now, connected with that, with the new initiative that we have done here in the new 4-country agreement, I can see a huge possibility coming up. Especially this new start of this 4-country connectivity, if we can involve Myanmar quickly and Sri Lanka quickly and Pakistan very quickly, then I think we'll slowly move into the SAARC initiatives plus China. What I'm very happy with is that at least we have now Nepal and Bhutan with us. And although the economies are not that big, the theme is, the bottom line theme that I get from this is the complete trust among these 4 countries. Nothing moves in the business until the politics have complete trust in each other. And with Modiji's visit here, we got a certificate that yes, these four countries at least have absolute trust in each other. That's why the visa regime has now been relaxed. We now get up to 5 years multiple entry visa. Nepal does not have any fees for us. We can get visa up front. Bhutan, I'm not sure, maybe we get upfront visa there. Now we need to expand that. And this connectivity with Pakistan and others, we should also now move on to the visa regime and see how best we can move on. But the basic thing that I would like to tell here, that such initiatives, people have negative thoughts. People believe, oh, it can't be done. Just look back 10 years, 15 years back. Where were we and where we are now? I remember going to northeastern countries, northeastern India, trying to develop business. And there are so many problems out there. But now, look at Pran moving there, the other companies of Bangladesh moving everywhere. So things are going forward. I'm a man who is basically optimistic man. I don't look towards the past, I look towards the future. I see a huge prospect from the business community, especially in the logistic business. And Professor Rahman Sobhan had mooted this idea of a Bangladeshi company owned by India, Nepal, Bhutan and Bangladesh to do this four-country trade and commerce through trucks, the logistic business. And time has come now for us. We have done it partly with the India-Bangladesh joint venture here. We're going to add Nepal and Bhutan to it so that they can use the new land protocol here. And the thing that I wanted to mention here, a practical thing, is to have a tracker on all the trucks and vehicles moving from here and a central control room in order to take care of those vehicles in case they get lost or in case they have in trouble. Now we have tracking business in Bangladesh, very much established. We need to expand it to the other three countries so that we can actually know where the vehicle is. And that would be a very good, peace of mind for the owners of the vehicles and also owners of the goods. Lastly, what I would like to say here is, yes, the implementation may take a long time, but FBCCI as a trade body, we are going to now sound the apex bodies of India, Nepal and Bhutan to join. A new committee will form just to support this new initiative. And I am sure we will be able to push the governments to sorry for this. This new initiative that I want to take among this four-nation apex trade body, and I would like to name this committee Dr. Rahmatullah Vision or Vision Rahmatullah Committee, because he's the one who actually had worked with me on many occasions on the BCIM rally, on this and that. And this is what I would propose. If it is accepted, then I would like to do that from FBCCI. And I thank all of you from here, from the different countries and missions. I would like to expand this four country to all SAARC nations as soon as possible. We would like to drive with our own car from here to Delhi, to Karachi, and if possible, Afghanistan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matlub. Now, let us bring in our colleagues from South Asia. First, let me bring in His Excellency the Ambassador from Nepal, and to put one question to him. Now that you have the opportunity to access Mongla port from Nepal, is anyone in Nepal, both in the government and in the business community, looking at this as a good business proposition instead of your traditional outlet in Kolkata?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for inviting for this very stimulating dialogue following the BBIN MBA. And particularly, I will be very brief and focus on the Nepal perspective. BBIN MBA was indeed a landmark agreement that would enhance regional connectivity and further promote the sub-regional integration. And it will also accelerate cross-border transport facilitations and will undoubtedly enhance sub-regional connectivity through mobility of goods, of people in the sub-region. And from Nepal's perspective, particularly, there are 2 or 3 points. It would enhance our bilateral trade in the region, significantly cutting the cost of transportations. It would have a positive impact in the tourism promotion, and it would also enhance people-to-people connectivity that was discussed during the presentations and also during the interventions. Yes, Mr. Chair, there is a real possibility of utilization of the Mangla and Chittagong ports for Nepal's overseas trade following this BBIN MBA. I'll tell you why. We have got the port facilities in India. We have been using for years, even for centuries, in the Kolkata Haldia port, and we have additional port in Visakhapatnam. Now we are very happy that Bangladesh has provided the 2 port facilities, Mangla and Chittagong ports, for Nepal's third countries trade. And Mangla port is the nearest one to Nepal's eastern border of Kakarvita, where we have seen these proposed linkages in the BBIN MBA. The distance, there has been a study from the SASEC also, there has been a study from Nepal also, I think there has been a study in Bangladesh also, what could be the comparative advantages using the Mangla ports. And we are very happy that there is a project between Mangla and Khulna. There is a rail link project. That was the missing link also. While discussing the Mangla port, we have to discuss both the rail and the road connectivity. We had just used the dry run in 2010, from Chittagong, using all the way to the Rohanpur, that's rail links, and that was proved to be quite competitive. And we are very happy that India and Bangladesh there is a framework agreement between India and Bangladesh which provides additional rail corridors to Nepal from that Rohanpur-Singhabad corridor. That is a broad gauge railway links that provides a very good possibility from the railway. And from the road links, with the improvement of the infrastructure, both at the ports and both at the highways, there is a good possibility of using the Mangla port in the near future. For that, we have to have an improvement in the border infrastructure, both in Nepal side, both in Bangladesh side. Of course, yes, we had visited the 3 ambassadors. With all these initiative taken by His Excellency Indian High Commissioner and Bhutan Ambassador and myself, we visited the border infrastructure last year, and in my second visit very recently, for the movements of the relief materials for the devastating earthquake in Nepal. We are very thankful to the government of Bangladesh and also very thankful to my good colleagues, the Indian High Commissioner. There was a special arrangement made for the movements of the goods from Banglabandha port to our Nepal border without any hassles. There was any transshipment. So that gives a good precedence for the BBIN motor vehicle agreement also. 10,000 metric tons of rice plus other hundreds of trucks were moved from Banglabanda, Fulbari land ports inside in the Nepal border. Not only inside the Nepal border, the relief materials also taken up to 20 kilometers to the Nepalese warehouses also. This is a good example that the three countries can work for the connectivity. And this BBI and MVA is, we think, it is going to be complement to the South Motor Vehicle Agreement, which we hope would be signed in near future also. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity to share a few thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. We look forward to the day when the word landlocked country will disappear from our vocabulary, and Nepal and Bhutan will be able to treat Chittagong and Mongla ports as their national seaports, not as seaports of Bangladesh. That will mean that the agreements have really, in fact, become effective. Now it gives me great pleasure to invite His Excellency Mr. Pankaj Saran, who has been associated with these issues for many years, not just as ambassador, but from his previous tenure. And one of the issues I hope he will address is that since you have now made significant investments both in the first credit and now in the second credit in improving communications, how effectively this is moving ahead and how responsive do you think that your government would be to the proposition that Mr. Matlub Ahmad and his colleagues will in fact become the principal carriers of your goods both into Bangladesh and into the Northeast? Because we would visualize that since India has a very significant export volume to Bangladesh and we are less capable of enhancing our exports, export of services to India will in fact become a big balancing element in our economic relations. So these are thoughts where I would welcome your response.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Rehman Sobhan, for chairing this session. I also want to thank the Honorable Minister, Mr. Obaidul Quader, for being here today, and to Mr. Matlub Ahmad, and to my distinguished colleague, the Ambassador of Nepal, and also the keynote presenter, Professor Mustafizur Rahman, and the USAID representative. I would of course like to also begin by paying my deep homage to Mr. Rahmatullah, who I knew very well, and I must say that it is his spade work that has contributed immensely to contributing to this process of regional connectivity. Well, it's been a very, very rich discussion. I am extremely impressed by the quality of the analysis of the text that has been signed on the 15th of June. I think this just reflects that the text is something which we all think is worth looking at. And it is an initiative which, it appears, has a wide resonance in all the four countries. The points that have emerged today are something which we need to think about, carry back with us. And I think some of the clarifications that have come forward are also very, very important. So I really am not the expert on road transportation, but so I will not actually go into the kind of the details of the agreement. I think that has been done at great length and by very competent people. What I would like to just do is to make a few observations to give you a sense or a flavor of where the government of India is coming from and how we see this process unfolding. I think the concept of regional connectivity has taken a very considerable jump in the last few years in the context of this sub-region, and a lot of credit for this has to go to Bangladesh. This has been a very old point of discussion between India and Bangladesh, and it is only in the last few years that through the framework agreement of 2011 we put it down on paper. And the good part of it was that Nepal and Bhutan came on board with this agreement, and they agreed to join this sub-regional framework, which actually includes 4 sectors. It includes power, water, transit and trade. And we've had 2 rounds of official level discussions, and the third is to be held. So I would say that the main message coming out of Thimphu on the 15th of June with this BBIN agreement is that we are ready to work with each other to advance in practical terms the concept of connectivity and go beyond seminar rooms and conference rooms. And the protocols and the annexures to the agreement, the definitions, they're all so precise that they provide a very, very firm foundation for us to move ahead. And I'm confident that we can move ahead quite easily. The point about regional connectivity also is that it cannot be limited only to land. I think a lot of speakers have very rightly said that perhaps what unites all 4 of us is that we are all land scarce. India certainly is, Bhutan, Bangladesh is, and so are Nepal and Bhutan. Now, land acquisition is actually a very real problem, and that impacts hugely on project implementation. So road construction by definition is going to be a difficult task because it will entail, and Ronak mentioned that it will entail hitting ourselves against the barrier of land scarcity. The congestion on the roads in all 4 countries are well known. I don't know how many of you have been to Jaigaon or Phunshuling or Kakarvita or Panitanki or Petropol or Binapol or a Khauda or a Gartala, but the site is the same. It's a backlog of hundreds of trucks. On single lane, if you're lucky, maybe you get a double lane. So the question is, we all have agreed, and we have over the last few decades, and with all due respect to the road minister, adopted a certain transportation policy which has excessive reliance on road and land. And as far as we are concerned, we believe that we need to move on all 4 platforms, whether it is land, whether it is sea, whether it is waterways, or whether it is railways. Because excessive reliance certainly on road is going to be very counterproductive in the long term for all of us. Therefore, I'm actually happy that we have made some move forward in terms of waterways and in terms of coastal shipping and in terms of railways. And if you see the 4 together, then that will be a more sustainable model for integration and connectivity rather than just focusing on road. On the question of For example, there has been some talk about fees and charges. I think it's necessary to recognize that in every single agreement that we have signed, including this one, there are specific provisions with regard to arriving at mutually agreed fees, charges, other service fees, and so on. And this is, to me, absolutely essential if we want to make this a sustainable process. So that is a very intrinsic element of all these connectivity-related agreements that have been signed. On the issue of transit, it's an interesting lesson for our economists that life is not as simple as they would wish. If you take the protocol that we have with Bangladesh on trade and transit on waterways, it's been in existence for the last 43 years, since 1972, and any shipper in Bangladesh would tell you that the transit cargo from India, from one part of India to another part of India, flowing along the waterways of Bangladesh constitutes between 1 to 2% of the total cargo. So in other words, 98% of the cargo which is coming on the waterway is from one point in India to another point in Bangladesh. And that same barge, and 95% of the barges which are being used for this are Bangladeshi owned, they're not Indian. And the third characteristic is that it is a single commodity transaction. It's basically fly ash, which is coming on barges which can barely float, and they're coming in to feed into the Bangladeshi cement industry, and they're all going back empty. So when you talk of transit and when you talk of fee, I think you really have to look at the market and you have to talk to the stakeholders. You have to call in people who actually do this business for a living and ask them what is actually the position in the market. The other thing, of course, about connectivity would also be and I agree with the proposition that it is highly inefficient. Again, if you ask people in the business, they will tell you that a normal time taken for a vessel to sail from Kolkata to Pandu or near Guwahati on the other side of the waterway protocol is between 40 to 55 days. Now that is more or less the time it takes from New York to Singapore. So if this is the reality in which we live, then we really need to think of better ways to do what we are trying to do. On the Northeast, again, we should keep in mind that the total population of Northeast is 40 million. 30 million is constituted by one state, and the rest of the 10 million is divided among the others. So basically these are the size of, say, a couple of upazilas of Bangladesh. The per capita incomes are lower than those of the rest of India. I'm not sure how they compare with the per capita income of Bangladesh. So the economic activity which transit will generate, or will these states generate for transit business in Bangladesh, has to be seen in perspective. That if you are talking of extracting maximum benefit from the transit activity in Bangladesh, you have to keep in mind who your customer is and what is the volume of business you're talking of. So that's, I just thought I'd mention that point here. On the, what Professor Rehman Sobhan mentioned about the Indian credit line, the projects that will come up under the second credit line are projects which will be of priority to the government of Bangladesh. I think that is normal practice when you consider credit lines given by not just India but other development partners of Bangladesh. So some of those projects I imagine would be in the infrastructure sector, but most will not be in the infrastructure sector, and they will be in sectors of priority to Bangladesh, which we have been informed about, such as information technology, education, health, power, and a bit of railways, and a bit of roads. But the bulk of it is going to be, in fact, all the projects are projects reflected to us by the government of Bangladesh. I think the whole concept of also trade as a whole and trade facilitation is critical to the growth of this sub-region. There is huge potential for expansion of trade between Bangladesh and Bhutan and Bangladesh and Nepal, which, as my distinguished colleague Ambassador Shrestha mentioned, as of today, there are just a handful of trucks that ply between Bangladesh and Nepal and between Bangladesh and Bhutan. Now there is scope for, I would say, exponential growth of this trade. Insofar as trade with India is concerned, there is an imbalance which is large, but I just want to mention 2-3 other aspects of this dynamic. And the first is that Bangladesh's exports to India between 2001 to 2015, that is in the last 15 years, have grown 10 times. So in 2001-2, Bangladesh's exports to India were $50 million. In 2013-14, they were $456 million. That's a tenfold growth. But more importantly, for the last 5 years, for the first time, Bangladesh exports to India have moved in the range of about $500 million. Till 2010, they were hovering between $100 to $300 million. So we see that there is a secular change in the quantum of Bangladeshi exports to India. On the other hand, India's exports to Bangladesh in the same period, from 2001 to 2013-14, have increased by about 5-fold or 6-fold, not the 10-fold which we see in the case of Bangladesh. Also interestingly, the total amount of Bangladesh's exports of ready-made garments to India was just $27 million in 2010-11. And 2013-14, that's in 4 years, they have increased 3 times and today are about $96 million. So in 3 years, we have seen a 3-fold increase. This is after the duty liberalization that we announced in 2011. And this figure of $96 million, which is the exports of ready-made garments to India, is equal to the entire Bangladeshi exports to India when you look at the figure of, say, 2003 or 4. So there is a very, very important structural change taking place in the way in which Bangladesh is dealing with India and in the way in which Bangladeshi industry is dealing with India. And I think we need to recognize that. So that brings me just to the last point, is I think we sometimes underestimate our success. I think the success of this agreement of the BBIN is vast. The potential will unfold over the next few years. The problems will exist naturally, but they should not prevent us from not moving forward. And in many cases, as economists would say, supply generates its own demand. So this is a significant move forward. I think it also kind of reflects another reality in our sub-region, which is that we are hungry for more. You know, you do something and then people say, yeah, that's good, but we want much, much more. And so I've heard comments that why did you take 20 years to do this? Well, it just took 20 years. But the ink has barely signed and we want much more. And today is the 20th. We signed this on the 15th. So that hunger for greater ambition, I think in our sub-region, is something which will drive and should drive all of us to kind of telescope the time we have lost in the last 4, 5, 6 decades and move to what Professor Rehman Sobhan said, the true reality, which is actually of a integrated.
I will now have much pleasure in bringing in the Honorable Minister, who has been known for many, many years, who has made himself visible on all the cameras of Bangladesh as a hands-on minister anxious to get things done. So before he comes in, I would put some propositions to him. I think the High Commissioner, Mr. Saran, rightly pointed out the fact that we are talking about road transport, but the critical driver historically was always water. And in the days when we were carrying your cargo from Kolkata to Guwahati, and this was a big business in Bangladesh, a big chunk of foreign aid was invested through the IWTA of Bangladesh in improving the navigability of our rivers so that the routes to Guwahati were dredged. We had lights for night navigation, and this was constantly being upgraded so that in fact this traffic would move smoothly. Today, as Mr. Obaidul Quader knows, we do not have night navigation in Bangladesh because we have not silted the rivers and we do not know when we will in fact run aground on the shoals because our rivers have not been properly dredged for years, and there is no incentive to improve the navigability in the night navigation. So I would hope actually that a good part of your credit could also be invested in the improvement of the navigability of the rivers. But so far the main beneficiary has been the areas of Mr. Qadir's ministries when he was both railways and roads. Now the other question which you may perhaps address over here is that the implementation of the projects for improving connectivity have been taking a disproportionately long time. And what can we do about this? I mean, at the moment, as far as I know, we should have been able to reconnect the link up to from Akhauda into Agartala, and we should have been able to improve the roads, which were all historic roads and links which existed. But in fact, we still have not managed to fully operationalize these, and what we can actually do to in fact expedite this process, because whilst the ambassador has rightly talked about the fact that the spirit is right and the political commitment is right, at the end all this will in fact really move very slowly if in fact it falls into the problems of bureaucratic inertia, where in fact projects are not being adequately implemented with the speed with which everyone expects. So that if both the governments and the leadership, which is strongly committed now to improving the relationship and improving connectivity, if their commitments are to be realized and they have a strong stake in this, then you, Mr. Quader, and other concerned ministers will have to see that the projects on the ground are rapidly implemented. And I think here we will in fact look forward. I don't know how many times you have visited, since you visit all the projects, actually the trans-border projects, where in fact progress has to be made, and what your experiences are over there. The last remark, because I will not speak at the end, I would like to make is that at the end, listening to all of you, I have been presiding over these dialogues for 20 years. Now, in the first part, we were discussing the problem of should there be any connectivity. Can you imagine that? And that was the big issue, and all sorts of peculiar arguments used to be advanced over there. Now the great progress which has been made, and I'm sure that our Prime Minister and her government should be congratulated, is that in 20 years the nature of the political discourse has changed. No one is now arguing about whether there should or should not be connectivity. We are now talking about the practical implications of operationalizing it and debating on how we should cost the benefits in services and the other nitty-gritty issues. This is where the whole conversation has actually changed, and I'm happy to note that all the parties are now engaged in this variety of discussion. Now this at least is great political progress. Now you, Mr. Minister, will have to follow it up by giving this concrete reality so that Mr. Matlub and his colleagues can then get the full benefits of it, and the people of both countries can get the full benefits. Let me now invite the Minister.
Honorable Chair, Professor Rehman Sobhan, His Excellency Mr. Pankaj Saran, High Commissioner, Indian High Commission, Bangladesh, His Excellency Mr. Hari Kumar Shrestha, Ambassador Royal Nepalese Embassy in Bangladesh, Keynote Speaker Professor Mustafizur Rahman, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you everyone. Some people work hard for money. Some people work hard for name and fame. But I work hard because I love my work. It is very easy to make big promises, but very difficult to deliver on promises. We have just started a new journey. A dream had just been dawned in our horizon in terms of regional connectivity. At this stage, there is little room for self-complacency. We have a long way to go. And we must remember one thing, that let our borders be no longer treated as separators, but as connectors. এবং এই বিষয়টিকে মাথায় রেখে my media friends just made a request to me to speak in Bangla.
Please.
So আমি বাংলাতেই বেশিরভাগ কথা বলবো। এখানে আমাদের একটা সমস্যা হচ্ছে আমাদের দেশে, our thinking pattern is highly ambitious, but implementation process is very slow and limited. বড় বড় কথা আমরা সবাই বলি, কিন্তু রিয়ালিটি ইজ ভেরি হার্ড, ভেরি ডিফিকাল্ট, সেটাও আমাদের মাথায় রাখতে হবে। এখন কেউ কেউ বললেন যে ঢাকা চট্টগ্রাম 4 লেন এক্সপ্রেসওয়ের কথা বলেছেন। ঢাকা চিটাগাং 4 লেন এটা যে কত বড় চ্যালেঞ্জিং বিষয় এটা আমি জানি, কারণ আমি 103 বার এই রাস্তা ভিজিট করেছি গত 3.5 বছরে। 103 times I visited this road construction work. রাস্তার পাশে মসজিদ, this is a Muslim country, বাংলাদেশ। রাস্তার পাশে মসজিদ, রাস্তার পাশে মাদ্রাসা, রাস্তার পাশে গ্রেভিয়ার্স, রাস্তার পাশে শ্মশান, রাস্তার পাশে মন্দির, এগুলো সরানো আমাদের দেশে খুব কঠিন এবং সরাতে সরাতে অনেক সময় লেগেছে। একটা মসজিদ সরানোর জন্য আমাকে 10 বার বৈঠক করতে হয়েছে স্থানীয় লোকজনের সঙ্গে, লোকাল পিপল। এটা যে কত বড় কঠিন কাজ বোঝাতে পারবো না। তারপরে আমি আপনাদেরকে ইটস গুড নিউজ ফর আস যে বিশেষ করে আমাদের বিজনেস কমিউনিটি এখানে যারা আছেন, উই হ্যাভ অলরেডি কমপ্লিটেড 140 kilometers out of 192 ঢাকা চিটাগং হাইওয়ে 4 লেনিং প্রজেক্ট আমরা কমপ্লিট করে ফেলেছি। আরেকটা গুড নিউজ আপনাদেরকে দিচ্ছি, ঢাকা মানসিং 4 লেনিং প্রজেক্ট, এটা এই জুন মাসে উই আর গোয়িং টু কমপ্লিট ইট বাই 30th জুন। সেখানে একটা ফ্লাইওভারও আমরা করে ফেলেছি। এবার আর এবারকার ঈদে কারো ভোগান্তির কোনো কারণ এই রোডে হবে না, আমি অ্যাসিউর করতে পারি সবাইকে। আপনারা জানেন যে ওই রোডে আমরা একটা ফ্লাইওভারও করেছি মাওনাতে, যেখানে ভোগান্তির একেবারে প্রাণকেন্দ্র হয়ে যায় সব সময়। তো এখানে আমি হাইওয়ে নিয়ে কথা বলছি, আমরা আরো কাজ করছি। আপনারা কি জানেন না, মেট্রো রেল, we have already floated 3 tenders out of 8. We are going to start physical construction work next February 2016. Metro Rail, Mass Rapid Transit 6, MRT Line 6. We are going to construct and we are ahead of our schedule. কথা ছিল 2024 সালে this project will come to an end. Now এটা 2019-এ কাজ শেষ হচ্ছে। 2019 আমাদের মেট্রো রেলের কাজ প্রথম ফার্স্ট ফেজের কাজ আমাদেরকে আগারগাঁও পর্যন্ত আসবে উত্তরা থেকে, এরপরে 2020-এ চলে যাবে এটা বাংলাদেশ ব্যাংক। 2020-এর মধ্যে সম্পূর্ণ কাজ আমরা উই আর গোয়িং টু ফিনিশ। এবং আপনারা আরো একটা বিষয় বোধহয় অনেকেই খেয়াল করছেন না, যে আমরা ঢাকা এলিভেটেড এক্সপ্রেসওয়ে, এটাও একটা অচল অবস্থার মধ্যে ছিল। এলিভেটেড এক্সপ্রেসওয়ে করার এটা ইটালথাই একটা কোম্পানি আছে ব্যাংকক বেসড, তারা পারছিল না, ফিনান্সিয়াল তাদের অ্যাবিলিটি ছিল অত্যন্ত পুয়ার। এরপর আমরা চায়না CRCC-কে তারা ফান্ডিং নিয়ে এসে এবং 49% শেয়ার করে এখন আমরা পুরোদমে কাজ শুরু করে দিয়েছি। ঢাকা এলিভেটেড এক্সপ্রেসওয়ে ফ্রম উত্তরা টু কুতুবখালী, সেটাও হতে যাচ্ছে এবং কাজ শুরু হয়ে গেছে। যে ট্রাফিক জ্যাম তো এখন আসলে উই ক্যান নট হ্যাভ ম্যাজিক্যাল ট্রান্সফরমেশন ওভারনাইট, দিস উই ক্যানট ডু। আমাদের এখানে প্রবলেম আছে, we have engineering problems, we have enforcement problems, we have awareness problems, most importantly awareness problems. Engineering problems, I am responsible for that, I can do it. But enforcement problem, it lies with police, law enforcers. And আরেকটা বিষয় হচ্ছে অ্যাওয়ারনেস, দিস ইজ মোস্ট ইম্পর্টেন্ট। এখন রাস্তায় শুধু যানজট নেই, জলজট আছে, জনজট আছে, মানুষে এখন জট হয়ে গেছে। মানুষের জট তারপরে বৃষ্টি হলে জলজট, তারপরে আবার যানজট, এই 3 জট মিলে মিশে একাকার। সবাই শুধু ঢাকা জলাবদ্ধতায় ডুবে গেল একথা বলছেন। কালকে আমি এনডিটিভি 24/7 লক্ষ্য করলাম ইন্ডিয়ার মুম্বাই শহর, হাই টাইড, ড্রেনেজ সিস্টেম ব্লকড ইন মুম্বাই। মনে হচ্ছে যে ইটস এ সি, বিশাল একটা সমুদ্র। এই অবস্থা কালকে আমি এনডিটিভিতে বারবার দেখছি সারাদিন। এটা তো হয়, এটা হবে। ব্লকড হয়ে গেছে অনেক রাস্তা, মানুষ বেরোতে পারছে না। এবং আজকেও সময় দেওয়া হয়েছে নেক্সট 24 আওয়ার্স লোকজনকে ঘরে থাকার জন্য বলছে যার যার জায়গায়। তো এই প্রবলেমটা আমাদের তো হবেই, আমাদের অনেক সমস্যা। আর আমাদের অথরিটি আর শুধু রোড ট্রান্সপোর্টের না, এখানে এলজিডি আছে, এখানে আপনার মিনিস্ট্রি অফ ওয়ার্কস আছে, এখানে পুলিশ আছে, এখন নানান সিটি কর্পোরেশন আছে। সবাইকে নিয়ে কোঅর্ডিনেশনের একটা প্রবলেম হতো। এতদিন 2টা সিটি চলেছে, আমাদের 3টা সিটি, ঢাকা, 2 cities and চিটাগং উইদাউট ইলেক্টেড মেয়র। এখানে আসলে প্রশাসনিক 6 মাসের জন্য একজন দায়িত্বে আসেন, তিনি 6 মাস পরে চলে যান, তার কোনো দায়িত্ববোধ নেই, তার কোনো দায়িত্ববোধ নেই। সে কারণে এই কাজগুলো আমি একা একা মাঠে লড়েছি। আপনারা আমাকে রাস্তায় দেখছেন, অনেকে আবার সমালোচনা করেছেন, মন্ত্রী এত রাস্তায় রাস্তায় ঘুরে বেড়ায় কেন। এই দেশে রাস্তায় না গেলে কোনো কাজ হবে না, কাজের মান খারাপ হবে রাস্তায় না গেলে, কোয়ালিটি অফ ওয়ার্ক এটা হবে অত্যন্ত পুয়ার। রাস্তায় না গেলে ছোট সমস্যাগুলো বড় দুর্ভোগ, ছোট ছোট জায়গায় বড় বড় দুর্ভোগ হচ্ছে, এগুলো দেখে না, কারণ এগুলোতে পয়সা কড়ি কম, কন্ট্রাক্টর সাহেবেরও লস, ইঞ্জিনিয়ার সাহেবেরও লস। কাজে এখানে টেন্ডার ফ্লোটিং এর প্রবলেম আছে, এখানে অল্প পয়সার টেন্ডার কেউ করতে চায় না। তো সেটা তো আমাদের বুঝতে হবে। তো মন্ত্রী কেন যায়? মন্ত্রীকে যেতে হয়, ছোট জায়গায় বিগ প্রবলেম হচ্ছে, আমাকে দেখতে হয় সেটা, সেজন্য আমি যাই। কাজের কোয়ালিটি আমাকে এনশিওর করতে হবে, কোয়ালিটি অফ ওয়ার্ক। আজকে মগবাজার ফ্লাইওভারের কথা বলেছেন অনেকে, সেটা অবশ্য আমার না, আই এম নট রেসপন্সিবল ফর দ্য কনস্ট্রাকশন, ইট ইজ এলজিডি মিনিস্ট্রি, এলজিডি ইজ রেসপন্সিবল। তারপরে আমি বারবার যাচ্ছি, আর চেয়ারম্যান ডিটিসিএ, ঢাকা ট্রান্সপোর্ট কোঅর্ডিনেশন অথরিটির চেয়ারম্যান হিসেবে আমারও দায়িত্ব, বিকজ ট্রান্সপোর্ট সেক্টর আমার সঙ্গে। এখানে যানজট হলে, দুর্ঘটনা হলে আমি দায়িত্ব এড়াতে, আই ক্যানট অ্যাভয়েড অর ইগনোর মাই রেসপন্সিবিলিটি, সেই জন্য আমাকে যেতে হয়, আমি যাই। সেটাও আশা করছি ডিসেম্বরের পরে দি প্রবলেম উইল বি ওভার। এই যে এখন যে সাফারিংটা হচ্ছে, জন্মকালের একটা যন্ত্রণা থাকে, এটা সবাইকে বুঝতে হবে। জন্মকালের যন্ত্রণাটা, বাচ্চা জন্ম দিতে মায়ের কষ্ট হয় না? তো একটা রাস্তাকে আপনি জন্ম দেবেন, সেখানে রাস্তাটা জন্মের সময় একটু প্রসব বেদনা আছে না, কষ্ট আছে না, সে কষ্টটা কেন মানতে চান না? এই ধৈর্যটা আমাদের দেশের লোকের খুব কম, এই প্যাশেন্স থাকতে হবে। এই দেখুন মেয়র হানি ফ্লাইওভার, 2.5 ঘন্টার সাফারিংস, 2 hours and half public sufferings. Mayor Hani flyover. Now the flyover work is complete. Only 3 minutes. You will take 3 minutes. এ পাশ থেকে ও পাশে যেতে, ও পাশ থেকে 3 মিনিট লাগে, আগে 2.5। তো এই সময়টা একটু ধৈর্য ধরার কারো আসলে খুব কম লোকই ধৈর্য ধরেছে, শুধু গেল রে গেল, গেল রে গেল, সব গেল। এভাবে তো হয় না, আমাদের চিন্তা ভাবনার একটু পরিবর্তন করতে হবে। তারপর দেখুন 6 মাস আগে আর্মিকে কাজ দিয়েছি, এই যে জিল্লুর রহমান ফ্লাইওভার, সেটা তো 6 মাসে হয়ে গেছে, 6 মাস আগে হয়ে গেছে। আপনার সব কাজ আমাদের দেরি হয়, যারা অভিযোগ করেন এটা ঠিক নয়। 6 মাস আগে আমরা বনানী ফ্লাইওভার করেছি, ওভারপাস, বনানী ওভারপাস 6 মাস আগে, এবং মিরপুর থেকে এয়ারপোর্ট পর্যন্ত জিল্লুর রহমান ফ্লাইওভার, এটাও 6 মাস আগে। এটা আর্মিকে দিয়ে আমরা কাজ সম্পন্ন করেছি। সব কাজ লেট হচ্ছে, একথা ঠিক নয়। তাহলে মেট্রো রোড 24 সাল থেকে টার্গেট 2020-এ কেন এলো? 2020-এর মধ্যে আমরা শেষ করব, এবং সেভাবে প্রস্তুতি চলছে। হাইওয়ে ব্যাপারটা আপনারা বলেছেন, হ্যাঁ, একজন বলেছেন যে এখানে এই রোডে চলবে না। ইয়েস, আমাদের feasibility study we have already done. Dhaka Chittagong High Expressway, it will be an elevated expressway. At the cost of 83 crore taka, we have completed, we have done the feasibility study. এখন চায়না হারবার MOU করেছে, আরো অনেক কোম্পানি আসছে। আমরা আশা করছি আমরা অচিরেই আমরা এই ঢাকা চিটাগং 6 লেন এক্সপ্রেসওয়ে শুরু করতে পারবো। সেটা কিন্তু আমরা বসে নেই, উই আর নট কিপিং কোয়াইট, উই আর নট সিটিং আইডল, আমরা আমাদের কাজ করে যাচ্ছি। তারপরে আপনারা কানেক্টিভিটির জন্য যে বিষয়টা মিস্টার পঙ্কজ সরণ এখানে আছেন, তাকে তিনি সহ আমি 4 আগে আমরা আগরতলা আমার শ্রদ্ধেয় প্রফেসর রহমান সোবহান যে বিষয়টা উত্থাপন করেছেন, আমরা কিন্তু সেই রোডটা কিন্তু দ্যাট রোড ইজ ইন গুড শেপ নাও, বাট it should be upgraded to 4 laning. 1. Now it is 2 lane, but very good shape, the road condition. And we are already, Mr. Saran, I have asked, I have to made a request to him to expedite the process. এটা ফাইন্যান্সিংটা ইন্ডিয়ার করার কথা, ইন্ডিয়া থেকে ফাইন্যান্সিংটা হলে কানেক্টিভিটিটা, রোড কানেক্টিভিটি আমরা আরো দ্রুত 4 লেনিং প্রজেক্টটা আমরা শেষ করতে পারব। আর অন্যান্য আমাদের ফেনী নদীর উপর এটা এগ্রিমেন্ট হয়ে গেছে, সাবরুম এবং ওদিকে আমাদের রামগড়, এর মধ্যে ফেনী নদীর উপর একটা ব্রিজ হবে, যেটা ফাউন্ডেশন লে করেছেন আমাদের প্রাইম মিনিস্টার শেখ হাসিনা এবং অনারেবল ইন্ডিয়ান প্রাইম মিনিস্টার নরেন্দ্র মোদী। এটা 22টি যে এগ্রিমেন্ট, প্রোটোকল এবং MOU সাইন হয়েছে, এর মধ্যে এটিও একটি। তো এগুলো তারা ফাউন্ডেশন লেও করেছেন। তা আমি আশা করি এটাও কানেক্টিভিটির একটা নতুন দিগন্ত খুলে দেবে। আর আমি যে কথাটা এখানে বারবার এসেছে যে এখন এই বুড়িমারি থেকে আমাদের যে রাস্তা, এটা আমরা 4 লেনিং এ যাচ্ছি, কোনো উপায় নেই। আর পদ্মার সাথে যে রোডগুলো কানেক্টেড, পদ্মা ব্রিজ, আপনারা জানেন এটা তো একসময় স্বপ্ন ছিল, ইট ইজ নো লঙ্গার এ ড্রিম, ইট ইজ নাও এ ভিজিবল রিয়ালিটি। পদ্মা ব্রিজ আপনাদের আমি সবাইকে ইনভাইট করছি, ইনক্লুডিং এক্সেলেন্সিস, প্লিজ কাম অ্যান্ড সি আওয়ার প্রোগ্রেস অফ ওয়ার্ক, ইট ইজ গোয়িং অন ফুল সুইং। অলরেডি ইউ হ্যাভ কমপ্লিটেড 20% ওয়ার্কস পদ্মা ব্রিজ। আবার এটা ওর সাথে আমাদের যে রাস্তাগুলো, এগুলোকে আমাদের 4 লেনিং করতেই হবে। তারপরে ঢাকা থেকে উত্তরবঙ্গের বুড়িমারি পর্যন্ত এই রাস্তা, রংপুরে 4 লেনিং আমরা কয়েকদিন আগে কমপ্লিট করেছি, বাকি এটাও আমাদেরকে বুড়িমারি পর্যন্ত 4 লেনিং এ যাব। তবে রোড প্রেজেন্ট কন্ডিশন ইজ ইন গুড শেপ, ইজ ইন গুড শেপ, খারাপ নেই। দেখুন অনেক কষ্ট হয়েছে, এক্সস্টিভ আলোচনা করতে হয়েছে। আমার সচিব সহ আমার যারা আমাদের ডেলিগেশন, এরা 2 রাত ঘুমাতে পারেন, সেখানে চন্দন আমাদের মালিক সহ আমাদের সচিব গেছেন। সচিব পর্যায়ের আলোচনাটা হয়েছে 2 দিন, এক্সস্টিভ আলোচনা করে পরে আমরা এখানে এসেছি। এডিপি তো চেয়েছিল 3 বছর, আমরা বললাম নো, আমরা এটা 3 বছরে নেব না, এটা পরে 6 মান্থ পর্যন্ত আনা হয়েছে। কারণ আমি বুঝি যে ইজ ইমপ্লিমেন্টেশন ইজ ডিলেড, দি ভেরি এগ্রিমেন্ট ইজ ডিনাইড, এটাই বাস্তবতা, এটা হচ্ছে রিয়ালিটি। সে কারণে আমরা এটাকে 6 মাসের মধ্যে নিয়ে এসেছি। We have not closed our door to any country. Pakistan has some reservations in this time, at this stage. They might have some reservations. Maybe they have some internal proceedings to complete. আমরা আশা করি ভবিষ্যতে পাকিস্তানও আসতে পারে, শ্রীলঙ্কাও আসতে পারে, সবার we have not shut down the door. The door is open. এখানে ওই এগ্রিমেন্টের প্রভিশনের মধ্যে আছে যে যে কেউ আসতে পারে, প্রবেশ করতে পারে, আবার 6 মাসের নোটিশে যে কেউ চলেও যেতে পারে, সে ডেমোক্রেটিক রাইটটা এখানে আছে এগ্রিমেন্টের শর্তে। কাজেই বিষয়টা কোনো আমি আশা করি প্রবলেম হবে না। আমি আবারও বলবো যে এটা একটা নিউ জার্নি, উই হ্যাভ জাস্ট উইথ এ ড্রিম। এটা টর্ন অ্যাপার্ট হয়ে যাবে সঙ্গে সঙ্গে, এটা এরকম পেসিমিস্টিক হওয়ার কোনো সুযোগ নেই, রাদার উই শুড বি অপটিমিস্টিক। আমরা আস্তে আস্তে এগোবো, স্লো অ্যান্ড স্টেডি উইন্স দি রেস। স্লো থাকবো, স্টেডিও থাকবো, কারণ রাতে ওভারনাইট আমরা কিছু করতে গেলে লং লিফ দিতে পারবো না, লং জাম্প টিকবে না। তো আমরা সেভাবে প্রস্তুতি নিচ্ছি। আপনারা আজকে যে সুন্দর একটা অনুষ্ঠান, ট্রেড ফ্যাসিলিটেশন ইন সাউথ এশিয়া থ্রু ট্রান্সপোর্ট কানেক্টিভিটি, operationalizing the motor vehicle agreements with the eminent experts from all relevant sectors of the issue. প্রত্যেকেই খুব মূল্যবান আলোচনা করেছেন এবং মূল্যবান সুচিন্তিত সাজেশন এখানে এসেছে, এবং আমি নিজেও অনেক কিছু শিখতে পারলাম আপনাদের বক্তব্য থেকে। আমারও অনেক কিছু শেখার ছিল, আমার অনেক অন্ধকারকে আলোকিত করার ছিল, সেটাও আমি পেয়েছি। আমি আপনাদের আলোচনা থেকে কিছু তথ্য পেয়েছি, কিছু সাজেশন পেয়েছি, এবং সেগুলোকে আমি নোট করেছি। এবং এর সঙ্গে আমাদের যে ওয়াটারওয়েজের কানেক্টিভিটি, সেটা কিন্তু আমাদের ওখানে গুরুত্ব সহকারে আলোচনা হয়েছে। হিজ মেজেস্টি রয়্যাল কিং অব ভুটান, তিনি দেখলাম খুবই নলেজেবল, সব কিছুর ব্যাপারে তার যথেষ্ট তিনি নলেজেবল, এবং তিনি ওয়াটারওয়েজ, তিনি বিশেষ করে রেল কানেক্টিভিটির উপর বেশি গুরুত্ব দিতে চান, যে এটা খুব চিপার মোড অফ ট্রান্সপোর্ট, যে কারণে রেল কানেক্টিভিটিটাকে তিনি বলছেন এইটাকে আপনারা নাম্বার 1 প্রায়োরিটি দিতে হবে। আমি তার সঙ্গে একমত, যদিও আই এম নট রেসপন্সিবল ফর রেলওয়েজ, আই এম নট রেসপন্সিবল ফর শিপিং। অন্য মিনিস্টার, ইন্ডিয়াতে অবশ্য শিপিং অ্যান্ড রোড ট্রান্সপোর্ট একজনই, মিস্টার নীতিন গাডকারি, মাই কাউন্টার পার্ট, ওখানে এসেছিলেন। তো যাক, এখন আপনাদের মূল্যবান আলোচনা থেকে আমরা অনেক কিছুই শিখলাম, জানতে পারলাম। দেখুন, ওখানে বিষয়টাকে আমাদের প্রধানমন্ত্রী কোন দৃষ্টিকোণ থেকে দেখেন, আপনার বোধহয় পত্রপত্রিকা মিডিয়াতে দেখেছেন, প্রাইম মিনিস্টার herself personally, she spoke to every minister, me, my counterparts, Indian minister, Nepalese minister, Bhutanese minister, transport minister. She spoke to everybody, including ADB vice president. She spoke to everybody, and এটা সবাই খুব এনকারেজ ফিল করেছে, উৎসাহিত বোধ করেছে। আমার মনে হয় এখানে অনেক চ্যালেঞ্জ আছে, এই চ্যালেঞ্জ আমরা অতিক্রম করতে পারব ইনশাআল্লাহ। উই শ্যাল ওভারকাম। থ্যাংক ইউ।
Thank you, Mr. Minister. I hope your optimism can be communicated to your other colleagues in the transport sector, because the problem that you have raised over here is that responsibility for what is a multimodal industry is diversified between 3 ministries. So I hope this matter can be resolved. So thank you very much. We've had an excellent discussion. We hope that this will be of use to the policymakers of all countries in the region. Thank you.
Regarding